2016, a chilly evening in the swamp. John Podesta's risotto is just about done. He just needed to add another quarter cup of stock. Slowly, of course. Out in Rat City, Democratic primary was in full swing. Hillary was riding high. The bitch had it in the bag. This was her story now. But just as John was about to grate the Parmigiano Reggiano, a ping. He turned off the burner and opened up his laptop, also probably a burner. An email from Google? Seemed innocuous enough. Click here to reset your password. One click. We split. Forked into two different realities. The old world and the pizzaverse. A few months later, those government-backed Russian hackers published everything on WikiLeaks. John, Hillary, the whole campaign, all their dirty laundry out in the open. Talk about an October surprise. This could be just the thing to give Trump that edge he needed. All they had to do now was wait. As is tradition when such leaks occur, 4chan descended upon the stolen emails like flies to honey. The election was only a few months away, and of course the hive mind was full MAGA. Back in 2016, 4chan would do anything to, finger quotes, own the libs. And what would own the libs more than putting a swaggering macho sex pest reality TV star in charge of the nuclear button? This would be like the time they made Mountain Dew say Hitler did nothing wrong, or they made a swastika in the Habbo Hotel. Epic, based, hilarious, but the stakes were much higher now. They had the opportunity to deface a building far more precious than Habbo Hotel, the White House. To this end, the Anons were served an ace in the hole on a silver platter. All they had to do was go through those emails with a fine-toothed comb and see what little treasures they contained. And what they found in those emails was Pizzagate. Hi folks, the name's Blind Lee. Codename, not my real name, for my own protection. I'm a research doer, investigator, noticer, dot connector. Some people are afraid of that. Guess I'm over the target. Why not subscribe and join the investigation? Cheers. So I set out to understand exactly what Pizzagate is and what was in those emails. If you're like me, you probably have a general sense that Pizzagate is some kind of conspiracy theory involving child trafficking. But who specifically is trafficking whom? Where is this happening? And how do we know all this? These questions prove to be nearly impossible to answer. Though Pizzagate believers abound, for some odd reason, they always struggle to synthesize their beliefs into coherent, complete sentences with a subject and a verb and active voice. It's always whispered and elliptical, a few hushed buzzwords and nothing more. So I went on r/conspiracy for help. I asked the good folks there, in Pizzagate, specifically who is trafficking whom and why? How do we know that? How did you decode these emails to mean that? Who specifically are the victims and who specifically are the perpetrators? Thank you in advance for your brevity and clarity. There were over 300 comments in my thread, but for some reason, no one answered my questions. At all. It was always just, well, you know what I'm talking about. Pizza, bro. Children. Trafficking. DC. Clinton. Walnut sauce. No, sir, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm trying to learn, but it's none of that answers my question. I asked very specific questions. Which specific single email should I be looking at to see a specific child sex trafficking reference? I don't need 3 hours of documentary or 10 links. I just need one link to one email and then what method you use to decode it. But very strangely, no one ever did that. Just vague gesturing. Do you guys remember high school English class? Whatever happened to thesis statements? I miss the old concrete conspiracy theories. Bush did 9/11, the CIA killed Kennedy. Boom. Clear, concise, active voice. There's no equivalent for Pizzagate. It's always no, I can't say it out loud. Oh yeah, why not, pussy? I kind of thought it was Hillary traffics kids from a pizza shop. But now I don't know because the top comment on my Reddit thread specifically said he thinks Hillary was not involved. So what the hell are we even talking about? Let me give you Redditors a quick lesson in rhetorical structure. Check this out. Bill Cosby used Quaaludes to drug and rape young women, and we know this because of the testimony of 60-plus women, as well as him being convicted in court for sexual assault and also convicted in other civil lawsuits. Note the use of active voice, not passive voice. It would sound really weird if I just said, in Cosbygate, people were drugged and raped. Like, who did it to whom? Did it just spontaneously happen? Like, oops, a rape occurred somewhere in the ether, or was there an active agent involved? Why couldn't anyone on Reddit do that for Pizzagate? Just me asking for someone to do that led to one Redditor to claim that I was Jimmy Savile. I mean, I'm not British and he is dead, so And the mods ultimately even permanently banned me. Jesus Christ, sorry gang. Let this be a lesson to you guys. Never ask r/conspiracy to explain a conspiracy. That is considered trolling and they really don't like it. I went to Reddit because I just wanted to know which email contains one reference to child sex trafficking, but nobody seems able to do that. People act like this is some abstract spiritual pursuit, divining some mysterious truth from an opaque Talmudic text. But no, this is a pretty cut and dry, binary thing. These are business emails from within a political campaign, not the Voynich manuscript. Do the emails contain references to child sex trafficking or not? If so, which email? Is there an email that says, yo, Hill Dog, we just bagged and tagged another baker's dozen kids from Rio. Gonna be a bloody sacrifice tonight. See you there, babe. Well, let's find out. Looks like this investigator would be on his own. So I watched all of the 3-hour Rumble documentaries recommended to me, meticulously scrutinized the leaked emails myself, and looked at all of the memes. I even went to Comet Ping Pong itself. I went through the rabbit hole and came out the other side, and Amiche, the truth is more complicated than you might think. So today, in this video, we'll be going through all of the evidence for Pizzagate, and we'll see if we can figure out what's going on once and for all, and why this story still haunts us today. Why is Pizzagate so sticky? Is it the honey-baked crust? Or just the imagined heinous crimes? Is Pizzagate the biggest story of the 21st century? Or just an internet hoax? And make sure to stay until the end to get my exclusive review of my dining experience at infamous DC pizzeria Comet Ping Pong. Okay, let's go. Okay, so after watching all of the 3-hour documentaries, I was very disappointed to learn that they were all equally as vague and spooky and lacking an active voice and coherent thesis statements as the dudes on Reddit. Just listen to these Pizzagate documentarians struggle to define Pizzagate.
Pizzagate is not a theory, or it shouldn't be a theory. It's simply an observation of bizarre, sexually deviant, and pedophilic behavior coming from a group closely associated with DC elites.
Pizzagate was about the disturbing discovery of coded language found within the Podesta and Hillary Clinton emails related to pizza, which connected to all of these ancillary players and what appears to be an organized child abuse and trafficking ring, which spreads its tentacles out into virtually every aspect of modern day politics in Washington, D.C. That is what Pizzagate is about.
Comet Ping Pong gained worldwide attention when allegations that a pedophile ring was being operated in part out of this establishment.
That's not even a complete sentence. When allegations what? Who is alleging this? Are you? Nobody has the courage to say anything. I love this guy who just reacts to everything with, so obvious. It couldn't be more clear, man.
Yep.
Wow. It's so obvious, guys. It's so obvious.
It is obvious.
And some messed up shit, man.
So it's pretty obvious
what's
happening there.
The connections you can start to make are obvious, blatant, and at other times deeply unresting.
No, it's not obvious to me. Speak, man. I don't know. To me, this all feels very disingenuous. I think all these people know exactly what they think is going on, but they're just too shy to say what they believe. So thank God for Liz Crokin. She's the only loon in this scene with enough balls to speak her mind. And she always complains that the mainstream media misrepresents Pizzagate to make it sound more ridiculous than it is.
The entire mainstream media redefined what Pizzagate was to make it sound ridiculous and less believable.
I would never want to make this very serious topic sound ridiculous. So please go ahead, Liz. Give us your academic definition of Pizzagate.
Hillary Clinton herself is a pedophile, and the Clinton Foundation is trafficking kids and has been trafficking kids, and they have been trafficking kids for a very long time. The Democratic Party, the Democrats, they look at abortion as a sacrifice to Moloch, so they're getting power from that. And we know the Satanists are into drinking blood, they're into adrenochrome, they're into all kinds of crazy stuff.
Bravo, Liz. Finally, some fucking confidence. But right away, we have a major distinction between the top comment on Reddit and her. According to her, Hillary is a literal pedophile, and the Clinton Foundation is the entity that's doing the child sex trafficking. And Pizzagate influencer Red Pill 78 says he thinks Hillary ripped the face off a baby and wore it like a mask.
Yeah, allegedly it was supposed to be Hillary and Huma, like ritualistically peeling the face off of a young girl and then wearing it.
In my opinion, that's a whole third potential role for Hillary to play in this. Because ripping faces off babies, that's not pedophilia. That's a peeling fetish, if anything. So Hillary, or maybe not Hillary, and the Clinton Foundation, or maybe not, are run by pedophiles who like to have sex with children, or maybe they're just evil child haters who like to murder children. Liz, how are we doing? Are there any other details we should know about?
And if you want to go further down the rabbit hole in terms of what they're doing with these aborted fetuses, is they're putting some of them in our food supplies. Some of these aborted fetuses end up in Pepsi products. So what they're also doing is they're trying to turn us unwillingly into cannibals.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so they're both pedophiles and child sacrificers. And the end goal of all this is putting ground up children into our food so that we eat them and then become cannibals and thus also satanic? Wow, I didn't realize that's how it worked. Thank you, Liz. Okay, so it seems like there's sort of a Pizzagate spectrum here. On one end, some people define Pizzagate as just people asking questions about the leaked emails.
Pizzagate is not about proving a sex ring. Pizzagate is about asking simple questions.
Which to me just seems like a wrong definition. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Liz going, Pepsi products contain magical satanic curses. Note the difference. On Reddit, everyone tries to play it cool and act like Pizzagate is just asking questions, but in their documentaries, in their walled gardens of like minds, they all sound a lot more like Liz. In philosophy, there's this concept called the Motte and Bailey, named after a type of English castle. A Motte and Bailey fallacy is when you conflate two different claims and then defend the easier claim and act like it also supports the hard claim. Pizzagators are masters in Motte and Bailey tactics. Hence why every answer I got to the question, which specific email should I read, was, dude, Epstein, bro, Epstein. But I am here to attack the inner castle, not the adjacent, much less heavily fortified structures. We all know Epstein was trafficking kids, but you know who's not in Epstein's meticulous flight logs? Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, Tony Podesta, James Alefantis, or any of the characters in the Pizzagate story. You can prove Epstein ad infinitum and it will get you nowhere to proving Pizzagate. Capiche? So after all my countless hours of research, I can now distinctly separate the many Pizzagate Baileys from the single Pizzagate moth to cowardly half-assed shrugs I got from Reddit and elsewhere. All add up to something like, Hillary Clinton is friends with some creepy perverts and they do some odd things. And then there's the moth, the ball to which we must always keep our eye on, which is something like the 2016 era Democratic Party, namely Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, Tony Podesta, and James Alefantis, and numerous other organizations are operating a hidden, massive, global, satanic, pedophile, baby and toddler sex trafficking brothel involving babies snatched off the streets, funneled in from foreign countries, or bred in cages for the specific purpose of harvesting magical drugs so the elite can remain high and youthful, but also because they're all genuinely sadistic pedophiles who enjoy torturing babies and toddlers for fun, who also then use the recycled, tortured baby bodies as artificial sweeteners to put in the food supply, so all Americans become Satanists, and the major epicenter of this crime against humanity is Comet Ping Pong Pizza Restaurant, which is connected by underground tunnels to all of the nearby restaurants, which are also all really just fronts for hostel-style recreational torture rooms. And we know all of this from decoded secret information hidden in the leaked Podesta emails and symbolism found in corporate logos. That, my friends, is pretty much more or less what every Pizzagator believes, even though most are too shy to publicly admit it.
All of these connections were made directly to Comet Ping Pong and James Alefantis' other businesses. The insinuation was that there was some sort of trafficking ring that was taking place in there.
There may be tunnels connecting the buildings underground. The owners of these buildings, all of whom are connected directly to extremely high-level people within our government, might all be involved in child trafficking in one way or another.
It's like all the people in that neighborhood
yes,
have like weird symbols in the business.
Yes. It's like everybody in that neighborhood pretty much has some connection to this stuff. They're all connected because they're all in DC. You know, I mean, like...
Of course, this definition is full of contradictions. Are they just torturing children for fun, or is it a necessary step in the process for creating their drug of choice? I feel like having it both ways doesn't really make sense. Like, how lucky for them. That would be like for me. Imagine if in order to get maple syrup, I had to like tickle the feet of Jessica Alba. That's a win-win for someone with my specific set of preferences. But I guess believers can just pick and choose different aspects and the ways they want to incorporate it into their own personal Pizzagate headcanon. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to lower the bar a little bit. Let's trim off some of the fat from that definition and just use this one. Pizzagate is the belief that in 2016, the Democratic Party, Hillary, Podesta, Alefantis, were connected to a satanic cabal of pedophiles who traffic babies and adolescents to the elite for the purpose of ritual sacrifice and sexual abuse. But if we can establish any sort of pedophilia or child abuse or sex trafficking at all involving Hillary, Podesta, or Alefantis, I think that's enough to say Pizzagate is true enough. So let's focus on that. And we'll save all the more extreme claims about cannibalism and Pepsi for another time. Because if there's no trafficking, there's no adrenochrome. But if there is pedophile sex happening at Comet Ping Pong, then that's enough to say Pizzagate is true enough. Okay, got it? So anyway, that's my best effort at creating a Pizzagate steelman that truly represents what these people think is happening deep down in their hearts. So when people try to say that Pizzagate is real by saying, hey man, Epstein cajoled that 17-year-old girl into giving a happy ending massage to Alan Dershowitz, my response is just, fuck you. What does that have to do with Pizzagate? Where are the babies? Where is the Clinton Foundation? Where are the Podestas? Where is the pizza? Tell me about the Pepsi baby sweetener. If it's low calorie and good, I might be down for it. If I ask about Pizzagate and you respond with Epstein, we're just talking past each other. Same story for Jimmy Savile, who was a horrible pedophile who abused children in hospitals all over the UK. And, you know, that's a true story with lots of solid evidence, very tragic, very fucked up, but also very Bailey and very not Mott. Isolated, unrelated, somewhat similar stories in different times and places involving all different people will never be evidence for the specific hard claim of Pizzagate. If you're accusing Bobby of murdering Susie in Springfield, then telling me another story about how Johnny killed Stacy in Portland is never going to be compelling evidence. Especially because, again, even what Jimmy Savile did was nowhere near the depravity of what Liz Crokin thinks is happening. Jimmy Savile didn't rip the faces off babies and dance around or put baby paste into the cheeseburgers of Christians to turn them into demons. In fact, the true story of Epstein, Cosby, and Savile all combined doesn't even come close to the surreal levels of depravity and horror of the hard claim of Pizzagate. Epstein paying high school girls $200 for sexual massages looks like shoplifting compared to ripping the face off a baby shipped in from Haiti for your sadistic plan to sneak baby protein into the Walmart corn dogs. Sex crimes are always bad. That's something Pizzagators and I can agree on. But they're not all equally bad. Stealing a pen is not as bad as stealing the Mona Lisa. We can say stealing is wrong, but we can't just group all thieves together. When I hear Pizzagaters talk about these stories, I feel like there's a flattening, a conflation of everything. And in that process, there's a word that has lost all meaning. When we say Hillary Clinton is a pedophile, what does that mean? I really hate to be this guy, but I'm going to insist that we actually define this word. So, by definition, according to the DSM, a pedophile is someone whose primary or exclusive sexual attraction is to prepubescent children. Prepubescent children being distinct from adolescents and fully grown adults who have gone through puberty. Why is this distinction important to make? We all agree that fucking children is wrong. Well, children can fuck other children, and that's generally okay. Not babies, but like 17-year-olds. I think they're allowed to fuck. I mean, Romeo and Juliet were 16 and 13, respectively, and we definitely stan and ship them or whatever. I think the word children as a catch-all for anyone under 18 is sort of misleading. I just get so frustrated when people like Benny Johnson in 2025 are calling Epstein a pederast.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Guys, words have meanings. A pederast is a gay pedophile. Epstein preyed on girls, not boys. So the word pederast doesn't apply. If I told you an adult man fucked a child, that could simultaneously mean that an 18-year-old fucked a 17-year-old, or that a 75-year-old raped a baby and ripped its face off. Sorry, not ripped its face off. But I'm just saying we have to be really careful here, because those two examples are universes apart ethically. One is literally fine, and one deserves life in prison bare minimum. It's like Nathan Fielder's punishment for popcorn sharers and theater masturbators. You're grouping together two pretty different levels of crime. That's why under federal law, we distinguish between sex crimes against children older than 12 and younger than 12. Punishments tend to be much more severe the younger the victim is, because as we all obviously intuitively understand, that engaging in a sexual act with a 15-year-old versus a 3-year-old are totally different things, which is why, of course, our criminal system treats them as such. To merely lump all of this together as pedophilia is just misleading, inaccurate, and confusing. We can all agree fucking children is wrong. I assume you think that, and I also think that. And not just illegal, but also immoral. Fucking children is wrong for many reasons, but I think it's important to actually understand why. In nature, when a mammal like us goes through puberty, that is what scientists call sexual maturation. That means, in theory, once a child has gone through puberty and become an adolescent, say age 13 for girls and a bit older for boys, they're ready to fuck. That's why teenagers tend to be the most horny type of person. After puberty, their bodies get flooded with hormones that make them want to reproduce. Because in nature, apes and humans rarely live to be 80. Most people used to die in childhood, and the lucky ones made it maybe to 30. If you haven't already had 10 kids by the age of 16, you're lagging behind. Because remember, most of your kids are going to die anyway. But then we developed agriculture and religion and society and technology and board games and the government. We evolved beyond apes. And now, immediately impregnating as many functional wombs as we can find is no longer the male's primary focus. Well, for some people it still is. But in general, we become enlightened about human psychology and flourishing. We discovered it's actually better to form families and stick together with just one womb and not constantly be looking for fresh new girl apes with pristine wombs because every woman over 25 is already filled with parasites. So if you're 21, why is it okay to fuck an 18-year-old but not a 17-year-old? This age difference could come down to merely a few hours. Ethically speaking, how much different is the moral infraction by waiting a day for their birthday to happen? Virtually everyone is fully done with puberty before 18, so isn't this number kind of arbitrary? Yeah, I mean, sure, it should probably be somewhere around there, but why not 18 years and 1 month? I don't think one more month could hurt, right? And puberty usually starts by age 12. So why is the age of consent not 13? Well, it actually was. For the first 100 years or so of American history, the age of consent was 12 or 10 in most states, and many kept it to 14 or 16 as late as the 90s. Was everyone in America pedophiles up until recently? Obviously not. They just figured, well, God made these kids able to fuck, and who are we to stop some old shitty dude from trying to fuck them? But today, we understand that it can still be ethically wrong to have sex with a 14-year-old, even if it's not inherently bad in a vacuum. Because sexual maturation is obviously not the only factor we consider in modern civilization. And because kids are generally very dumb and easy to manipulate and exploit, we realized that we need to create laws to specifically protect young girls from being preyed on by tricky older male sexual predators. Because newsflash, men in general do tend to be attracted to younger women. I'm sorry if this is news to you, but yes, youth is indeed associated with beauty and sexual desire, generally speaking. But it's also generally better for everyone's emotional and intellectual development, and for the sake of society at large, if teens just date each other, and we let adolescents extend their period of innocent play as long as possible. Be very technically clear here. Epstein and whatever clients he had were sexual predators and sex traffickers of underage adolescent girls, but not technically pedophiles. Still bad, just not pedophiles. And just to clarify, we all know that tons of politicians in DC are guilty of being such mega perverts and constantly doing low-grade sex crimes. Anthony Weiner, Matt Gaetz, politicians like this are often sleazy, unethical hornbags. Of course, nobody denies that. But there is a universe of difference between Anthony Weiner sending unsolicited dick pics to a 21-year-old woman, or even Matt Gaetz allegedly spending tens of thousands of dollars on hookers and blow and going to high school parties, and Pizzagate, which supposedly is an organized pedophile cabal of trafficking babies for human sacrifice. For now, I am totally uninterested in reviewing unsolicited dick pics. Sure, those are bad, but that will never count as evidence for Pizzagate. This is all to say that, according to Pizzagate, we are dealing with a cabal of genuine pedophiles, meaning we are accusing them of being beyond Epstein. All of these Democrats are supposedly actual DSM diagnosable pedophiles whose primary or exclusive attraction is to prepubescent children. We are looking for genuine pedophiles doing genuine crimes, trafficking children under the age of, say, 12. So once we open up the emails, just remember what we're looking for. Pizzagators never actually make an argument that Pizzagate is real, per se.
Is there, in this case, direct proof of guilt? No, not necessarily.
Even Liz admits that there's no smoking gun. Well, actually, she says there's many small smoking guns.
There's not one smoking gun. There's many small smoking guns.
To me, a small smoking gun still counts as a smoking gun. If somebody gets shot, the size of the gun isn't that important. So what does that MC Escher painting of a sentence really mean? What I think Liz is trying to say is that she's not making a syllogistic argument for Pizzagate, but an abductive argument. Basically, a syllogistic argument is like, all Greeks are pedos. Socrates is Greek. Therefore, Socrates is a pedo. That's a valid argument. We can dispute the individual soundness of the premises, but the logic is there. A syllogistic argument is the best way to actually prove something, like in the mathematical sense of the word. But in real life, people don't really think like that. And as we've already discovered, Pizzagators definitely don't operate like that. No one has ever created a syllogistic argument for Pizzagate. No, when you talk to believers and watch the documentaries, they take a different approach. Instead of laying out premises supported by evidence that lead to a conclusion, Pizzagators instead offer what one narrator calls a list of things that make you go,
What I'm going to do is first of all give you a short overview of things that made me go,
Given this list of things that make you go, the most likely possible explanation is Pizzagate, they argue.
Once they start analyzing it, they're going to see the dots, and typically the dots will connect themselves.
When you put all of those facts together and you use critical thinking, you realize this stuff is real.
What else could account for this list of things that make you go, The most likely explanation must be Pizzagate. If every other possible explanation requires more new assumptions, we can logically assume that the explanation that makes the least outlandish assumptions is probably true. Abductive arguments can be tricky though, because they rely so heavily on one's own personal ability to infer information. Consider the following data points. My friend John has 40 knives in his basement. He lives in San Francisco, where most people don't have basements. In his neighborhood, a series of stabbing attacks have taken place, and the police don't know the culprit, but somehow they've deduced that he probably lives in a house with a basement. When I tell you this story, it sounds spooky. With just those data points, your brain naturally connects the dots. Well, sure, John is the stabber. Of course. We naturally feel suspicious of John, even if we can't logically conclude he's the killer. Because think about it syllogistically. Police think the killer had a basement. John has a basement. John is the killer. No, you see, that doesn't work as an argument. The conclusion is that John potentially could be among the list of possible suspects based on this sole criteria. But of course, you don't actually have reason to conclude he's the killer, nor really even be suspicious. You wouldn't start smearing his name in the streets based on just this. After all, the vast majority of people who have basements are not killers. And there's nothing in particular about basements that makes you more likely to be a killer. It's the stabbing part that's wrong, not the having a basement part. So it's important to determine if he just has a basement or actually murdered someone. When you just isolate this particular list of things that make you go, it sounds spooky. But what if we mix in another list of things that make me go, oh yeah. For example, there's millions of people in John City. Almost all of them have a few knives in their house, and at least 1 million or so more have a basement. Oh, and I forgot to mention that John is a professional sushi chef who travels to Japan yearly for summits on slicing fish. Yeah, sorry, I guess that would have been relevant to have known. In fact, he was in Japan on the night of the stabbing, so it's actually impossible that he was the culprit. The killer, it turns out, was from a different neighborhood altogether, and he bought a new knife that day for killing. And the police were mistaken. He didn't have a basement at all, but a backyard shed where he conducted his villainy. This is why abductive arguments are often misleading, because your reaction totally depends on what the list maker arbitrarily chooses to include and exclude in the list. There is an infinite amount of potential data points to add to any given list. Shining light on the context surrounding these isolated data points often reveals the true constellation. Because in darkness, your imagination can fill in that negative space with whatever nightmare haunts you. Another useful technique we can use to shed some light on these misleading abductive arguments is take the conclusion and then work backwards. Like in the scientific method, the strength of your hypothesis is based on its ability to make predictions about the real world. I don't know, if there was a secret pedophile sex trafficking operation going on, what would we expect? I don't know, child-sized cages? Baby-sized satanic tunics? Bluey DVDs covered in blood? A leaked draft screenplay to adapt Rosemary's Baby as an early education show? If they're murdering thousands of children or whatever and putting their blood into our food, I feel like there should be evidence of that. Like, is that not empirically detectable? If all of these tons and tons of children are being murdered, I would expect to see some physical proof of that somewhere. Some witness testimonies or victims coming forward or stuff like that. You know, big bags of child bones. I don't know, mothers complaining about their children going missing. And in the emails, you know, I would expect group chats of torture chamber, upkeep advice, blood talk, face ripping technique chat. I would imagine there would be stuff like that all over the emails. In the cases of Epstein, Cosby, and Seville, the reason we found out the evidence that exposed the sexual abuse taking place was that the people who were sexually abused said, hey guys, that guy sexually abused me. And then, you know, whatever authorities have jurisdiction in each of these cases investigated it and found there to be compelling evidence to support that claim. That's the thing about child sex trafficking. It's a crime that involves human victims who are capable of coming forward and speaking. Sure, it's tough and brave of these victims to come forward, but that generally is the best and most essential evidence if you're looking for sex trafficking. But these things that I would expect to find, the things that we did find in every single child sex trafficking case that actually exists, like empirical evidence of victims, we have never found for Pizzagate. There are no victims of Pizzagate. No one has ever come forward. No one in real life has ever actually accused any of the characters in Pizzagate of sexual abuse, trafficking, or bloodletting or anything. We have nothing. Well, sorry, what we do have are emails. So let's get into those. Let's pick up where our story left off. So John Podesta just got phished by Russian hackers, and now the so-called Podesta emails have been leaked, and 4chan is combing through them. Shit, I'm so sorry. One more thing before we get into the emails. For those who are unaware, let me briefly explain what 4chan was back in the 2010s. Because if Pizzagate is a dream, then the dreamer is the hive mind of 4chan. I think it's very important to understand the nature of the mind that concocted this theory. So 4chan was an old school forum where everyone was anonymous, even more anonymous than Twitter. On 4chan, you didn't even have accounts. You could literally pretend to be a completely different person every single time you posted and have entire conversations with yourself if you want. It's the perfect, pure open market of attention where only the things that evoke the strongest visceral reactions, good or bad, can stay afloat. When I was a young adolescent, I stumbled upon 4chan back in the mid-aughts. And my morbid curiosity kept me checking back on and off for a few years until I matured enough to realize how stupid and toxic it all was. And to this day, the only time I have ever been inadvertently exposed to something akin to CSAM is when I browsed B, the random board on 4chan. In fact, the top 10 most fucked up things I've ever seen in my life probably were all on 4chan, usually being applauded and savored by the community. Devoid of the social mores that things like reputation and dignity imbue into us when interacting in public, the online anonymity of 4chan leads to the worst possible behavior, and for those who enjoy most engaging in that, to congregate there. 4chan is a website shrouded by the ring of gaijis, and users can indulge in their most base primal fetishes and visceral racist hatred because they are totally unbridled. Back then, the unofficial mascot of 4chan was a character called Pedo Bear, a semi-ironic satire of the user base, who were famously and semi-proudly largely self-avowed pedophiles. Pedo Bear was one of the most popular user-generated memes for years, but the official mascot, at least back then, was actually this prepubescent Japanese girl named Yatsuba. So, as you can see, a big part of 4chan has always been their love of anime. And in this case, that mainly means anime porn of young girls. A big part of anime porn is that the girls often look very young, like prepubescent children. Until 2023, the age of consent in Japan was 13. And in general, their culture really likes to ride that line of puberty much closer than we do in the West. There's a massive industry of anime porn called lolicon, which is basically just illustrated child porn. But it's legal in Japan and sort of a legal gray area in America. And it very often gets posted on 4chan. Because hey, even though this individual really looks like a child, I can assure you, Mr. Police Officer, that she's actually a 2,000-year-old wizard named Mitsuko. Checkmate. 4chan users are generally huge fans of these aspects of Japanese culture, to say the least. To me, it would be fair to refer to 4chan as a pedophile website, more than any other website I've ever heard of. Because 4chan has the lowest possible legal moderation standard, it just attracts all the posters who got banned from the other forums and porn sites with slightly more rigorous moderation standards. So let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, that means Nazi shit or lolicon. I remember back in the day, there would always be a popular lolly thread, a jailbait thread, and sometimes actual CP, which 4chan users cleverly called cheese pizza, because even on 4chan, CP is illegal and bannable, and users had to wait until late at night when the mods were asleep, and then use euphemisms to request it so the mods would be less likely to detect it, and the true pedos could exchange images quickly before the thread was deleted. But to be very clear, this was not them speaking in code, it's just slang. That's a big difference. That's like how I call a marijuana cigarette a doobie. That's not a code word. I'm not trying to trick anyone or hide it. It's not an attempt to conceal my criminal activity. In those 4chan threads, when someone said post cheese pizza, just a few dozen pixels away would be actual photos of CP. It was not hidden. People just use slang because, no cool stoner dude is going to use the term marijuana cigarette. And no actual pedophile would ever be like, damn, I'm horny. Time to look at some child sex abuse material. Of course, pedos have giddy pet names for their favorite vice. But it was never an attempt to hide what they were doing. On 4chan, you were already hidden. This place was anonymous. Here, they could be open about their attraction to prepubescent children. That was the whole point. Man, I haven't been to 4chan in years. Let's check in and see how things are going. Ah, yes, I remember B. And yep. Literally the very first thing I see when I go to 4chan is a thread of AI generated lolicon, aka animated child porn. So yeah, that's 4chan. So just keep that all in mind. You know what? Let's make it an official pizza fact so we can keep everything straight here. Pizza fact number 1. 4chan was a scarcely moderated cesspool that attracted genuine pedophiles. So now we're almost finally ready to get into the emails, I swear. There's one last extremely important point that I need to make, and it's a mistake that every single Pizzagator I've ever spoken to has made. Okay, so that 4chan term, cheese pizza for child porn, that's their own phrase. But in every single Pizzagate documentary I watched, these people all say that this phrase comes from the FBI, and terms like cheese and hot dog are well-established universal pedophile code words.
And not only are they speaking in code, but it is the same code that has been well-established by the FBI. All of this makes a whole lot of sense when you realize the FBI code walnuts means a young child of color.
But this is just 100% pure bullshit. It's not true. The FBI never said that. There's a different document that the FBI released about pedo symbols, visual symbols only. It has nothing to do with code words. To be honest, I kind of feel like this single point of confusion accounts for the entire Pizzagate phenomenon. We are going to come back to this real FBI document later, but just trust me. It's just about these visual symbols and says nothing about words. All of this entire phenomenon is enabled by this one random screenshot from some guy on 4chan who is just making all of this shit up after the email's already leaked. He's looking through the emails, arbitrarily choosing words, and then retroactively making up random ideas for code words, which even he admits are just possible interpretations. But somehow this random shitpost got totally lost in translation, and now clueless boomers like Liz Crokin think these are FBI confirmed terms with a long history of usage.
Pizzagate is a conspiracy theory. Pizzagate has been debunked. It has not been debunked. If it's been debunked, explain the code words.
They were invented on the spot that day by an anonymous 4chaner, and there is no record of any of these terms ever being used anywhere. They're all wrong. The only kernel of truth here is that yes, on that website, on 4chan, where those users were posting, those people used the term cheese pizza to refer to their own child porn, which they love. But he even messes that part up. Pizza doesn't mean girl. Pizza would just be the P for porn part. This post is just objectively completely wrong and should be totally disregarded. Every single Pizzagator to this day believes that this 4chan screenshot represents official FBI code words.
And these are like FBI intelligence community recognized code words, aren't they?
Oh yes, I've got a document. I'll show that to you in a second. Yeah. All of those things are code words that have been identified and are actually in use. The FBI document, I mean, that was, obviously a watershed moment because it confirmed the knowledge of this stuff at the highest levels.
With each and every email they read, they constantly refer back to these FBI code words as their North Star, even though the FBI never had anything to do with this, and it was just invented by a troll on 4chan for the specific purpose of allowing you to concoct sinister decodes of these specific emails. But no one has ever referred to an orgy as sauce. It's never happened. No one has ever referred to a sexy black child as a walnut. He just made this shit up. And again, by he, I mean an anonymous user on an anime pedophile porn website known for its lies and treacheries and large-scale pranks. A website with a banner that reads, "All the posts here are artistic works of fiction and only a fool would believe anything posted here." Like, guys, watch this. I can do it too. Let's see here. Okay. Walnut equals poop. Sauce equals pee. And just for good measure, pizza equals fart. Okay, that ought to throw a wrench in their investigations. There, now there's just as much evidence that walnut sauce means poop mixed with pee. And the point is, while the FBI can be a reliable source of information, one-off 4chan posts are not. And I think it's important to not conflate the two. But for some reason, every single Pizzagate documentary makes this mistake, which makes watching these so insanely frustrating.
If we are to take seriously the code words and their meaning, then this email becomes unsettling and sick.
When you actually know what those words mean, which is common knowledge in the sex industry, these emails suddenly become shocking.
There's just no rhyme or reason to which terms are official FBI code words and what they're supposed to mean. Everybody's just making it up as they go. Because Red Pill 78 says that MAP means a minor attracted person in the context of these emails.
All of those things are code words that have been identified and are actually in use. So a map, okay? A map is a minor attracted person.
So which is it? It can't mean cum and pedo. She also says hot dog and pasta both mean little boy. Come on, why would you have two code words for the same thing? Suffice it to say, no one has any reason to believe that these are code words, and even then what they might mean. Everyone is just guessing. So just keep that in mind as we begin analyzing the emails. And if you hear someone say, it's in the FBI codes, they are a confused boomer. Let's make it another official pizza fact. Pizza fact number 2. CP or cheese pizza was a 4chan slang for child porn, which they generally love and think is tasty and delicious, like pie. But it's not an FBI confirmed code word for pedophile sex traffickers. The 4chan screenshot is bullshit and was written in response to the Podesta emails. What that means is we're completely on our own decoding these emails. Since this 4chan screenshot is fake, it cannot help us. We're gonna have to start from scratch. So where do we begin?
Somebody said to me, hey Dave, search for pizza in Podesta's emails. And once you go down that rabbit hole, you never really emerge the same person.
But wait, why just pizza and not cheese pizza? Cheese pizza is the 4chan pedo term. Well, I guess they weren't using that one, but just for the record, if you search cheese pizza, the actual euphemism for kiddie porn, nothing comes up. There are no uses of that term, cheese pizza, in the entire leaked Podesta emails, which, makes sense because these are business emails from a political campaign, not the darkest corners of a pedophile website where people send porn back and forth. These emails are virtually all prosaic business exchanges, event coordination, and boring parlays between friends and family. Sorry guys, but there's no porn at all. But for some reason, despite all of this, people still tell me to search for pizza in the emails. So okay, let's try it and see if this radicalizes me. Okay, why would itemized reimbursement invoices for Pizza Hut dinners for campaign staffers cause me to become a different person? I'm still the same person. And speaking of people, I should briefly explain who these people are before we dredge further into their emails. So, John Podesta was the head of the Clinton campaign in 2016, and James Alefantis was a guy involved in fundraising events for the Democrats. Hence why all these people were emailing each other in the context of Hillary's run for president. But in addition to being involved in the Democratic political scene, John Podesta and James Alefantis are also both famously Italian chefs.
I knew how to cook by the time I was, time I was in high school. Very, very simple tomato sauce, right? Oil and garlic, tomato, salt and pepper and basil. I have a deep ethnic background. My mother was Greek American, my father was Italian American. I almost always cook Italian.
James owns several restaurants, and the Podestas are always planning these fancy fundraising dinner parties and cooking for everyone. Because of this, when you search for pizza or pasta or sauce, there are indeed hundreds of references to these terms, but they are unmistakably, undoubtedly, and undeniably references to actual Italian cooking. Why are Pizzagators shocked to find so many uses of the term pizza in the leaked emails of a professional pizza maker?
In the emails, he is shown to have this affinity for pasta, like an obsession with pasta. There were a number of emails that discuss his love of pasta.
Like the idea of there being so many references to Italian food in their exchanges, that's exactly what I would expect from Italian chefs who plan fancy fundraising dinners for a living. The idea of them using something like pizza as a code word would just be bad planning. That's going to cause so much confusion because of the hundreds of emails where they conduct their normal line of work dealing with real pizza. No one disputes that these men are steeped in real pie, so we're going to have to really sift through so much noise if we're going to find a particular signal of pizza code words. Like, take this email, for example. Surely we can all agree this email is just about Italian cooking. To be honest, there's few people on earth I would expect to hear more Italian food talk than the son of Pesto Mary and his feisty gay restaurateur colleague. Gays and Italians are two of the most passionate critics of cuisine, especially hoity-toity East Coast ones. It's so funny to hear these Pizzagators be like, sure, I would expect people from Planters Peanuts to be discussing walnut sauce, but not Italian chefs, restaurateurs, and gourmet dinner party fundraiser gurus.
Who writes emails to each other concerning walnuts? I guess maybe people that work at the Diamond Nuts Corporation or Planters Peanuts might, but politicians? All of this makes a whole lot of sense when you realize the FBI code walnuts means a young child of color.
Like what? What are you talking about? He just calls them politicians, so I guess maybe he's just totally unfamiliar with who these people are. So John Podesta is the Planters Peanut Man of pizza. So right off the bat, I just feel like there's this unfortunate coincidence where the genuine pedophiles on 4chan refer to CP as cheese pizza, and then these random guys own a pizza restaurant, and that's really all there is to it. And everything else is just pure hysteria. But let's keep an open mind. It just sucks that they're not like sushi chefs or construction workers or concert pianists. You know, some type of guy that wouldn't conceivably already be talking about pizza all day. That would make this way easier. If all these characters were lactose intolerant Korean dentists, the discussion of Italian food would seem slightly more odd. But yeah, if some burly construction worker's leaked text came out and he was messaging some shady dude in Slovakia, like, ooh, I had fun raping that little pizza last night. I mean, that sounds like a code, but none of the Podesta emails ever sound like that. Just listen to how much they stretch this.
It was obvious from the get-go that these words were code words for something else because the context that they were used in did not make sense.
There is some kind of code language. They're just not talking about pizza, folks. Who phrases that? Who blocks out an hour of time to eat a slice of pizza?
You can get a service for a half an hour, you can get a massage for a half an hour, but you can't get food for a half an hour. It just absolutely makes no sense.
You would like to get pizza for an hour? Pizza is just something you eat. It's not something that you rent for a period of time.
What do you mean it's impossible to get food for an hour? It's very possible to do that. I've spent numerous hours getting food. Nobody's renting food, RP. You misread the email. This is so stupid. Pizzagators, let me explain something to you. When you're a busy politician or manager or CEO and you're running around DC, you really do schedule your lunches in hour intervals. These people are busy and they love to have power business lunches where they booze and schmooze and make deals and plan shit. Or hey, maybe normally you'd want to have a long 2-hour lunch, but in this case they needed to emphasize that they're busy and they can only spare 60 minutes. Plus, there's tons of other emails in WikiLeaks where people specifically use this phrasing. Lunch for an hour? Maybe you guys have never booked a reservation at like a fancy restaurant on a Friday night, but reservations often do give you a time limit. You can reserve a table for, say, 90 minutes, and then they kick you out. Also, lunches are often opportunities for people to meet and socialize and discuss business. So in that hour, it's going to include other things besides just eating. Want to get pizza for an hour is perfectly normal. But let's just ask the question, Pizzagators. What do you think this email is referring to if not lunch? Do you think they're going to go look at child porn together for an hour? Imagine two professional business women texting each other. Hey, I know you're busy this week, but do you want to have sex with our child slaves from 12:30 to 1:30 on Tuesday? Do we really think that's more likely what they meant by pizza in the context of dinner? Just because your schedule is so open that you can't conceive of planning ahead? And plus, this email thread is called "You Two Free for Dinner on 12 or 13 January. What, is dinner a pedophile code too? Oh my God. I was only a couple emails in, and I was already completely losing my mind from the sheer stupidity of this. But I pressed onward. And good viewer, I am proud to announce that I have now carefully read the full threads of every email referenced by every Pizzagator I can find. And here are the top 5 finger quotes most damning leaked Podesta emails, as well as 2 bonus emails from a later DNC email leak, which most Pizzagators conflate anyway. Are there coded references to child sex trafficking in any of these emails? Let's find out. Okay, this first email begins with a message from real estate agent Catherine Tate of Kendall & Kendall Real Estate in Vineyard Haven, Massachusetts, to Susan and Herb Sandler, a billionaire philanthropist couple. It seems they were looking to purchase a house in Martha's Vineyard, and so they were touring homes for sale. The realtor notes, "Thanks for all piling into the car. It was definitely more fun with everyone, and think of all the gossip you would have missed if we were in 2 cars. Cute." The next day, Catherine, the realtor, sends them another email. "Susan and Herb, I just came from checking the field house, and I have a square cloth handkerchief, white with black, that was left on the kitchen island. Happy to send it via the mail if you let me know where I should send it. I also meant to inquire yesterday about the pillows you purchased. I can send them as well, if you let me know where they are in the house. Safe travels to all, Kate." The Sandlers then add John Podesta to the thread, thinking that the handkerchief might have been his. So I then say we can presume that John perhaps tagged along in the car with them in Martha's Vineyard to tour the homes as well. So then we get this famous message. "Hi John, the realtor found a handkerchief. I think it has a map that seems pizza related. Is it yours? They can send it if you want. I know you're busy, so feel free not to respond if it's not yours or you don't want it." To which John Podesta replies, "It's mine, but not worth worrying about." And voila. Did you catch the evidence of child sex trafficking and ritual sacrifice? No? Okay, so what's going on here? It seems to me like the Podestas and the Sandlers were touring vacation homes, and John or one of his 3 children maybe accidentally left a handkerchief on a kitchen table in the field house. They describe it as being black and white and cloth and having a map that seems pizza related. So I'm picturing something like this. I have something exactly like this at home, but with red beans and rice on it that I got in New Orleans. I hope red beans and rice aren't pedophile goods. But anyway, this handkerchief was probably some worthless little souvenir trinket from a restaurant or a gift shop or something, hence why he didn't bother to go back for it. Maybe they just brought it because they had come directly from lunch at a Kischy pizzeria, perhaps. Maybe it was just to keep the sun off or be a sweat rag for the hot day of driving around. But now, let's put on our Pizzagate glasses and see if we can see through the matrix and discover the true meaning of this conversation.
So the realtor said they found this handkerchief, but he says it was at his friend's house or something. Like, were their friends selling the house? And why? Well, why would the realtor be the one to find it and then bring it to somebody's attention? Like, this seems out of place. Like, if I was a realtor selling a home and there was like a handkerchief there, I'd just be, well, you must just be there. Like,
yeah,
that's weird too. So were they using like abandoned houses or houses that were for sale that were empty or something? Like,
I mean, we don't know. I mean, sky's the limit. There's so many different opportunities for code and a bunch of different ways you can read this.
Well, that 4chan screenshot codex may not be FBI confirmed or real, but let's try it anyway. Let's swap in these code words and see if the story becomes more clear. Okay, let's try. "Hi John, the realtor found a handkerchief. I think it has a semen that seems girl related. Is it your... Wait, hold on. A semen that seems girl related? No, that doesn't make sense. Let's try RP's codex instead. He says that Map is a minor attracted person. Hi John, the realtor found a handkerchief. I think it has a minor attracted person that seems girl related. No, that's not a coherent sentence either. Real quick, I just have to double down and say shame on you to the guy on 4chan who wrote this. You invented this codex for the specific purpose of trying to make these emails be sinister. But it doesn't even work at all. You could have chosen anything, but somehow you still failed. If you wanted to make this email about child sex trafficking, I think handkerchief would need to be the code word. Let's say handkerchief means dead child skull. Boom. John accidentally forgot his dead child skull, but it's no big deal because he's going to get another one soon. Why am I better at this than actual Pizzagators? In my personal Pizzagate headcanon, if I got to decide the rules, I think pizza just means child slave, and then you get different toppings, and that would be the different types of child slaves. That's just better writing than this 4chan dipshit. So let's say cheese is like child skin. Because, most pizzas have cheese, most children have skin. But I also understand that Hillary likes to take the skin off. So for me, cheese equals child skin, pizza equals child slave. And then pepperoni could be like curly hair and dimples, and anchovies is maybe a British accent, and mushrooms means they're well behaved. And come on, guys. Use your imagination. Already my version of Pizzagate is way cooler and it makes more sense than yours. You get to design your child slave any way you want, like when you order online from Domino's. Wait a minute, Domino's. Write that down. That sounds like a code word. But anything really can be a pedophile code word. RP's friend asks him if ping pong is a pedo code word. And he's like, sure, why not?
Is ping pong code for something?
I think it is, but... hang on. I don't remember right now. Ping pong pedophilia code. Hold on. If anybody knows, yes, it is.
But that's not in the 4chan screenshot either. There's no rules anymore. So let's see if we can dig deeper into this email and try to find more pedo code words. Surely we can find a way to make handkerchief code for something, right? And indeed, Pizzagators have found another angle. So historically in the gay community, a handkerchief in the back pocket at cruising spots was used as a coded communication system, so men could telegraph their desires and fetishes surreptitiously using a colored rag hanging from one pocket or the other. A black handkerchief dangling in your left pocket means you're a dominant top. Yellow in the front means you're into piss, and brown, you get it. Use your imagination. So handkerchief code really was a thing back when gay sex was illegal and socially unacceptable, but it relies on physical cloths dyed vibrant colors. It's like a little flag for your fetish. But you don't just say the word handkerchief in a written message. That's not how it works at all.
Using handkerchiefs as a code for sexual preference is a well-documented phenomenon. It's something that's been used, say, within like the swingers and the homosexual community, and obviously within like the pedophile community as well.
Hanky code, as they call it, was something gay people did, not pedophiles. Two horny gay men see compatible hankies and go at it. Why would a pedophile have a hanky? You think some child is going to see that and be like, oh, cool, he's a pedo. I should go under the bridge over there and proposition him for sex. No. Obviously not. Unlike on 4chan, pedos in the real world have to hide their pedophilia in order to successfully get close to children and prey on them. That's why they join the Boy Scouts and churches and places where they can get close to children with plausible deniability. If you're wearing an ascot that says, I'm a proud pedo, children are going to run away from you, which is opposite of the goal of a child sex predator. Also, just Podesta is not gay. He's a straight married man to a woman, and even gay men don't use hanky code anymore and haven't used it for decades. They just use Grindr now. But even if this was hanky code, that would just maybe be evidence that Podesta is bisexual or kinky. And regardless, black and white with pizza graphics is not really one of the hankies used in hanky code. But that's where Photoshop comes in handy. This infographic appears in multiple Pizzagate documentaries.
Even if you knew nothing of FBI codes, the FBI has also reported of a handkerchief code, with each color of handkerchief apparently having a specific meaning, such as oral or anal sex.
But there's some pretty significant mistakes in it. And by mistakes, I mean deliberate misleading edits. Notice how this one claims that a white handkerchief means pedo/virgin. That is 100% fake. Even though they cite Wikipedia as their source, when you go to that link, it very clearly says that white handkerchief means cum lover, which, fucking duh, of course that's what it means. Yellow means pee, brown means poop, and white means cum. If you guys knew anything about the gay community, you would already know that white handkerchief means cum lover. There's no virgin pedo hanky code. That doesn't exist. Like, guys, just fucking look at it. They clearly just added this to the list and then added text at the bottom that says wikipedia.org. But we can all Google things, So now we know that Pizzagators are happy to lie in order to make their argument more compelling. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if I trust this weird European bitch anymore. If you want to claim that John Podesta is a sexually dominant cum lover, then God bless. If you want, you can make that case based solely on the physical description of a cloth object he discarded, but it's not a crime to be a cum lover. In fact, I support cum lovers. So let's toss out the hanky code angle, because that was never going to get us to child sex trafficking anyway. And unfortunately, I don't think handkerchief is really a code word at all. The vivid, specific description of the handkerchief as being cloth, black and white, pizza related, I don't think that sounds like a code. That sounds like a specific description of a specific thing. I don't think there's any coded language here, period. But even if we want to pretend she's speaking in code, well, code can mean anything. Sure, maybe it's possible they forgot something embarrassing or sensitive, and the realtor used the weirdest euphemism ever in an attempt to be polite. But that doesn't seem likely either. They were touring houses for sale for an afternoon. What could he have possibly brought? A big alien dildo? A bag of cocaine? A DVD of child porn? You can choose whatever noun you want, but you're just playing Mad Libs. And even then, I don't think it's a euphemism at all. It would just really be confusing to choose such an unheard of and bizarrely specific euphemism. Why wouldn't she just say, hey, I think you left something on the counter. You left a baggie, a box. Like, why say a black and white cloth handkerchief? What could that be a euphemism for? I cannot conceive of anything, can you? You can do Mad Libs if you want, but the question is, why? Why are you photoshopping Wikipedia, lying about the FBI, arbitrarily changing words to mean other things that they don't mean? Why? Why are you desperately trying to make this email about child sex trafficking when it obviously is not? All we have here is an abandoned ascot. But please, leave a comment if you think this email is about child sex trafficking, and please explain what you think they're really saying and how you decoded it to mean that. Okay, up next we have what one r/conspiracy user called the biggest smoking gun of all the Pizzagate emails, which I guess he means one of many little non-smoking smoking guns. So this is an email from one Jim Steyer to John Podesta. Hey John, we know you're a true master of cuisine and we have appreciated that for years. But walnut sauce for the pasta? Mary, please tell us the straight story. Was the sauce actually very tasty? Love to all the Podestas from the Steyers. Cheers, Jim. Okay, whoa. Surely this one has pedophile code words talking about child sex trafficking, right? I mean, walnut sauce? On pasta? What could that possibly mean? I'm sure we all read that and immediately imagined children being raped, right? No, just me? Okay, so according to our favorite guy on 4chan, this email is actually talking about, let's see here. Oh, an orgy of colored children. Aha. Again, no one has ever used the word sauce to refer to an orgy, and no one has ever used the word walnut to refer to colored people. I even searched walnut on Pornhub just because I was curious, and the only thing that came up was a couple videos referring to women's assholes as walnuts, so there you go. In my new and improved Pizzagate Codex, walnut officially now means asshole, in which case walnut sauce would be diarrhea. So please update your history books, Pizzagators. But in all seriousness, yeah, I think it's again safe to dismiss this angle as just arbitrarily swapping out regular words with pedophile words for no reason. So what on earth could these men possibly be talking about if not child sex trafficking? Well, I mean, to be fair, walnut sauce is a thing, and you do typically put it on pasta, especially when you're an Italian chef.
I'm making a walnut sauce, which is a Ligurian recipe to serve on pasta, and then I'm just making some simple tomato sauce. When I'm cooking for 20, rather than chopping stuff up, it's easier just to use it as big cans. If I was in Italy and this was my grandmother, I'd have been pounding those walnuts with a mortar and pestle. But believe me, it's a lot easier in the Cuisinart.
Just to provide a little more context here, Podesta replied to this email by saying, It's an amazing Ligurian dish made with crushed walnuts made into a paste. To which Jim again replies, smiley face, I just want you to make it for me and Tom one time. We will bring vino from Lugaria. Okay, yeah, that sort of clarifies everything and sucks the air out of the idea that this might be a sexual coded exchange. I mean, you know, you're going to make the pasta with wine and it's an Italian dish. This all reinforces the idea that these are Italian chefs discussing cooking, since that's what the words in the email said. Do we think Ligurian dish is also a pedo code word? How about vino? Crushed walnut paste? Does that mean we're crushing colored children into paste? Or no, we're crushing assholes. But wait, how can you fuck the children if they're in a paste? I guess if sauce is a code word, then paste probably is too. If sauce is orgy, maybe paste is a threesome? Guys, words don't actually mean anything anymore. You can just choose your own meanings for words. In fact, watch this. Whatever the next word you say is, to me, that's a pedophile code. Checkmate. As someone who understands English at a basic level and also has some Italian 101, I am able to parse this email and correctly identify that it is two people talking about actual real pasta, the food. I cannot conceive of any other interpretation, but please leave a comment if you think this email is about child sex trafficking. And please explain what you think they're really saying and how you decoded it to mean that. Next, we have another email from Herb Sandler to Mary and John Podesta. Mary and John, I think you should give notice when changing strategies which have been long in place. I immediately realized something was different by the shape of the box, and I contemplated who would be sending me something in the square-shaped box. Lo and behold, instead of pasta and wonderful sauces, it was a lovely, tempting assortment of cheeses. Yummy. I am awaiting the return of my children and grandchildren from their holiday travels so we can demolish them. Thank you so much. I hope you and your gang are well. I miss you both. Best wishes for a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Herb. P.S. Do you think I'll do better playing dominoes on cheese than on pasta? Okay, we're beginning to see a pattern here. So, if I understand this, Herb is thanking the Podestas for giving him a box of assorted cheeses for Christmas. But he was surprised because normally they give him a box of pasta and sauces for Christmas. Which, again, makes sense because they're Italian foodies. But I think some people just hear that last line and get confused. Have more luck playing dominoes on cheese than on pasta? What could that possibly mean? Hey, wait, we predicted dominoes would be a code word. So let's try to decode this.
Dominoes and cheese and on pasta. This is more pedophile code.
What could this line mean? Well, who knows? To me, it sounds like a little inside joke between them. Sounds like maybe they played dominoes together, the game, last year for Christmas, and it didn't go well for Herb. You can conceivably play dominoes on top of a box, especially like a big Christmas present box, especially if you were somewhere where you didn't have a hard surface like outdoors or in a park or in a backyard or the beach or something. Or by playing dominoes, he could also mean like lining up dominoes to fall on top of each other. So maybe he famously failed at doing that last year at Christmas. People often play games with their families and enjoy their gifts together at Christmas time. Okay, so again, we're faced with the question, is he talking about child sex trafficking or not? I'm open to other interpretations, but I don't see how you could possibly think this email has anything to do with pedophilia. And again, I don't see any reason to believe that they're speaking in code at all. Even if you don't personally know the full details of the story behind their famous Christmas domino game of 2014, there's nothing suspicious here. Just the type of slight ambiguity we would expect from suddenly eavesdropping on two random strangers mid-conversation. We can play the game of zooming in on the sentence, I am just awaiting the return of my children and grandchildren from their holiday travels so we can demolish them. But clearly he doesn't mean like murder children. He's saying he's excited to eat the assorted cheese boxes with his kids. Demolish the cheese, not the children. Wait a minute. He uses the word children in this email, but I thought cheese meant children. Is he awaiting the return of his cheese so we can demolish the children, or vice versa? Let's try to decode this. Lo and behold, instead of a little boy and wonderful orgies, it was a lovely, tempting assortment of little girls. Yummy. P.S. Do you think I'll do better playing dominoes on little girl than on little boy? A box of orgies? Close enough. So wait, what do we decide Domino's is code for? Pizzagators? No ideas here? All right. Okay, hold on. I got it. Let's say playing dominoes means torturing children. I mean, that would get us pretty far. So yeah, normally Podesta sends them a box of boy slaves for Christmas, but this year he sent them a box of girl slaves just to change it up, and then now he's musing which one he'll be able to more effectively torture. Boom. And by boom, I mean the dumbest fucking thought I've ever had in my life. If you want to play pedophile Mad Libs, which I agree, it's fun to do that, you can make this email be about whatever you want. But again, Mad Libs isn't evidence for child sex trafficking, and this email is obviously just a thank you letter for a Christmas present. And because John Podesta is a gourmet Italian chef, he gave them a box of fine Italian cheeses, like Parmesan, for Christmas. I cannot conceive of any other interpretation, but please leave a comment if you think this email is about child sex trafficking, and please explain what you think they're really saying and how you decoded it to mean that. Okay, so this next email is from Tamara Luzzatto of the Pew Charitable Trust Foundation.
Let's hear it for another great Italian.
Pizzagators also target this woman because they found out she used to have a mommy blog back in 2009. You Zoomers probably don't remember Blogger, but before Instagram and TikTok, everybody had blogs where your friends and family could follow and keep updated on your inane musings. So her blog was a place for her to post cute photos of her kids so her loved ones could watch them grow. But when Pizzagators see photos of babies, they immediately start thinking of sex. So this blog also gets roped into Pizzagate, mainly because of the mordant wit of her banner, which reads, Evelyn is growing up. Soon she will be the queen of the entire US of A. Right now, for a limited time only, you can spend some time with her online, raw and uncut. Take advantage of this now, as in the future she will have the power of life and death over you. So this is obviously just a bit of silliness. But Pizzagators naturally view this as evidence of actual real child sex trafficking. But that's just because they're stupid. Raw and uncut access is a funny joke way of saying it's cute baby photos. She's exaggerating for comic effect. It's not literally true. This baby is not literally going to be the queen of America, you fucking dummies. This is called humor, okay? Something undoubtedly understood by the 6 people in her life who followed her blog until 4chan found it and started harassing her. So anyway, here's her email in which seemingly she's planning a fun social event for friends, family, and colleagues at their rural farm. Notice her zany 2009 era sense of humor shines through here too. With enormous gratitude to advanced man extraordinaire Haber, I'm popping up again to share our excitement about the reprise of our gang's visit to the farm in Lovettsville. And I thought I'd share a couple more notes. We plan to heat the pool, so a swim is a possibility. Bonnie will be Uber service to transport Ruby, Emerson, and Maeve Luzzatto, 11, 9, and almost 7. So you'll have some further entertainment, and they will be in that pool for sure. And with the forecast showing prospects of some sun and a cooler temp of lower 60s, I suggest you bring sweaters and whatever attire will enable us to use our outdoor table with a pergola overhead, so we dine al fresco, and ideally not al chillo. Hilarious. I'm CCing Trudy to repeat the invite and sending pining wishes you could come to Rima, John P., and Lori and Chris. Con amore, Mrs. Farmer L., Tamara Luzzatto. Whoa, whoa, whoa. These children are going to be entertainment? Well, child sex slaves would certainly be entertaining to pedophile sex traffickers. Grab your pitchfork, boys. We got them.
This last one is just downright gross and in my opinion leaves little room for interpretation. What kind of entertainment involves 3 young children and a grown man in a swimming pool?
Well, hold on. I suppose also at a normal family gathering, children playing and splashing in the pool would also be a source of entertainment for their fucking grandparents. Actually, you'd have to be such a weird, fucked up freak to read this any other way.
Why would children be entertainment for a grown man? Have you ever spoken to a friend about whether or not there were going to be kids present in a pool, and would that have any bearing on your decision on whether or not to actually attend that entertaining party that they're having.
Well, that's just so weird too, to phrase the kids as being entertainment. I mean,
Yes,
yeah, obviously that's a red flag.
Why are you pointing out the ages? I mean, unless you have a fetish for young children of specific ages.
Why list the ages of her kids? Is it out of consideration of pedophilic sex preferences? Or maybe just because it's fucking good to get a sense of what to prepare for as a host when a guest to your farm is bringing 3 kids? Maybe we need to toddler-proof the corners. Maybe they're into video games now. Maybe we should lock the dog up in the basement. Maybe they're at the age where they'd enjoy the petting zoo. Should we put away the diving board? Are they okay eating fancy walnut sauce pasta? Or should we prepare a kid's pizza too? When I grew up, my house had a big pool, and many of the moms in the neighborhood would often bring their kids over. But of course, you would want to clear that with my mom in advance, because there's a big difference between 3 12-year-olds and 12 3-year-olds. These numbers are going to vastly impact how much supervision, if the older, rougher kids can be in the pool at the same time, which pool toys we should bring out, etc. But RP doesn't consider any of that. The only explanation that makes sense to him is that Podesta is a pedophile with fetishes of these particular ages, and this grandmother is literally prostituting her children to him.
Speaking about a baby as some form of entertainment is bad enough. Suggesting that it's raw and uncut online, I would say that, you know, it's pretty damn sure that this is some form of child abuse or, you know, pimping out of these kids.
To that, RP, all I can say is, fuck you, retard. If you don't have a relationship with your family or have friends or do social engagements and instead spend all day on 4chan engaging with pedophile content, I can see why you'd feel alarmed by this email. I mean, if I played Pokemon all day and never spoke to humans, I'd probably think this email was about Pokemon. But to non-troglodytes, this email is obviously just human friends and families engaging in normal human friend and family behavior. Something I think that's really telling here is that RP reads this email to his friend, a new generation Pizzagator, and his immediate reaction is just like, wait, what? That's really it? That's all?
Kona Moore, Miss Farmer L. Miss Farmer L.
So were these the emails that like got everybody started to think like, hey,
well, yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Sorry, you're not meant to actually read the emails like this. It really shatters the illusion, huh? But please, leave a comment if you think this email is about child sex trafficking. Please explain what you think they're really saying and how you decoded it to mean that. These are going to get more silly now as we scrape the bottom of the barrel. But I have heard Pizzagator cite this email, so we have to talk about this one. From one Podesta brother to the other and his wife. Still in the torture chamber. Another question. Do you two want to have Feb 14 Valentine's Day dinner? Sent from my iPad. There's not a lot of context to determine exactly what they're talking about. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the reference to a torture chamber is also probably a joke. I find it funny that whenever they say, wow, thanks for the box of assorted cheeses for Christmas, you guys are like, that's obviously a code. But then when he's obviously joking, saying he's in the torture chamber, you guys suddenly want to take everything at face value. How do we know torture chamber isn't a code? Maybe it was like some draining political event with a diva, or a stressful meeting with investors, or a hot sauna, or the hospital, or the dentist's office, or his mother-in-law's house. He's obviously talking about something tedious and laborious as being a torture chamber. Have you ever heard people refer to going to the office as back in the meat grinder, you know, that election was a bloodbath, or we got slaughtered at the big game? Humans use metaphors and exaggerations in conversation all the time. Believe it or not, these emails are full of regular human people making regular human jokes, being silly, and communicating in all the ways that humans, including you, use all the time. Or maybe he really is a dominant cum lover and he's doing some kinky BDSM shit in the torture room. But that doesn't seem likely because he probably wouldn't be telling that to his brother and their wife. So I think we can strike that angle as well. Let's pretend Pizzagate is fully true and they're meticulously using all these code words to hide their crimes. Then why the hell wouldn't there be a code word for the torture chamber? Seems like you might want to code that one up too. I don't know, the tomato slicer, the canning room. Come on, guys, we need to be consistent. So yeah, I'm going with torture chamber as in a joke. I think if the Podestas had a casual torture chamber from which he would be so relaxed as to send quippy texts on his iPad planning Valentine's Day dinner with his brother and his wife, there would probably be another single piece of evidence from the existence of said torture chamber. Yeah, I'm going with the figure of speech on this one, boys. But do leave a comment if you think this is about child sex trafficking. There you have it. Believe it or not, that's basically the full list of Podesta emails from which spawned the entire Pizzagate theory. Yes, seriously, that's it. Those are the best emails in favor of Pizzagate from the Podesta hack. Well, you don't see it? Let's not give up hope yet. We still have 2 more bonus emails. These aren't from the Podesta League, so I don't know if we can canonically count them as part of Pizzagate, but they're from different unrelated email leaks from different people from around the same time. And Pizzagaters often include them as evidence in their documentaries anyway. So we'll go through 2 more real quick. I'm not going to read this whole email because the end is really the only part that matters. So this is from earlier, back when Hillary was Secretary of State under Obama. This email is just getting into the nitty-gritty of some boring standard diplomatic operation in Honduras. The staffers are hoping everything goes well, and so this one signs the email by saying, "With fingers crossed, the old rabbit's foot out of the box in the attic, I will be sacrificing a chicken in the backyard to Moloch." So again, back in 2009, nobody knew how insane everyone on the internet would become today. So this was like a pretty standard type of joke to make. This is from the same period of humor where we all said that bacon was epic and stuff like that. I remember making this exact Moloch joke in 8th grade at the lunch table, and it killed. And remember, this is the same team that went on to write Pokemon Go to the Polls.
Pokemon Go to the Polls.
To anyone with a functioning brain, she is obviously making a cringe, edgy joke, just like the torture chamber email. Sacrificing a chicken to Moloch is a silly way of saying fingers crossed. Of course, it was kind of funny back then, but listen, Democrats, you can never use the word Moloch again, even when it's obviously a joke. We're all too stupid now. We're gonna believe you.
I will be sacrificing a chicken in the backyard to Moloch. Enough said.
No more jokes. And that goes for everyone. But please, leave a comment if you think this email is about child sex trafficking. And please explain what you think they're really saying and how you decoded it to mean that. Okay, one last email to round things out. I like this one because it returns to the food theme of the random 4chan screenshot that everyone pretends is from the FBI.
Needless to say, it is very clear to see that John and many of the people whom he was communicating with are speaking in code. And not only are they speaking in code, but it is the same code that has been well established by the FBI. A few emails worthy of mentioning are here. Here we have an email discussing that the White House is flying in $65,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza. And yes, you could argue that the White House spends a good deal on high-profile events, and thus it is silly to assume that this email has anything to do with child trafficking, but really? 65 grand to fly in hot dogs and pizza? Who flies in hot dogs and pizza? Does this hot dog and pizza catering service have a name? And 65 grand? At the very least, these people are wasting an insane amount of taxpayer money. Oh, and one last thing. It is protocol that all the food served at the White House is prepared at the White House due to worries of contamination and poisoning and the like. So all the food at the White House is made at the White House. So what does this email mean?
Wouldn't you just go to the grocery store or, call up Instacart or something like that? I mean, I don't think it's literally pizza and hot dogs.
Well, it makes no sense.
No.
Just makes no sense. Like,
yeah,
flying in pizza and hot dogs from across the country when I have to imagine there are pizza places and hot dog stands in Washington, D.C.
Oh, plenty. Yeah.
So that makes no sense unless it's something else.
So this is an Obama-era leak where 2 White House staffers detail their very serious plan to spend $65,000 on hot dogs and pizza to be sent to the White House. But wait a minute. As the Pizzagators point out, all the food in the White House must be made in-house. So holy shit, this is actually super suspicious. What is going on here? Well, for one, everything I just said is a fucking lie. These are not White House staffers. These are employees for a random private company in Austin, Texas called Stratfor. This email is about their office hot dog party, which other emails clearly explain just means like they put some free hot dogs in the break room and then they emailed the employees and were like, hey guys, free hot dogs in the break room, help yourselves. That's it. This comment, I think Obama spent about $65,000 of the taxpayers' money flying in pizzas/dogs from Chicago for a private party at the White House not long ago. Assume we are using the same channels? This is another example of a fucking joke. These dudes don't know Obama. They're joking. They're making fun of Obama for being wasteful. It's like if my girlfriend was like, I just spent $1,000 on moisturizing my hair. And then I responded, gee, did you go to the same salon as Hillary Clinton? This is water cooler office banter from their small company in Texas. Guys, nobody actually spent $65,000 on hot dogs or pizza. He was joking. I repeat, nobody spent $65,000 on hot dogs and pizza. Obama had nothing to do with this. The White House has nothing to do with this. But because Pizzagate people cannot perceive humor, subtlety, context, or irony, and constantly have pedophilia at the forefront of their minds, they read this and think, $65,000 on hot dogs? There's no way they're talking about hot dogs. They're talking about child sex slaves. After all, the FBI confirmed it. Hot dogs means little boy. Brr, brr. Later on in this series of emails, we learn that the hot dogs were a big hit at the office. So they actually decided to order again from the same restaurant a few days later. As one employee explains, they have all beef turkey and veggie dogs, whole wheat buns for the health conscious, and pretty much any topping you would reasonably want. They also have corn dogs with jalapeno butter, burgers, and veggie burgers, an award-winning chili that can also be made vegetarian. In fact, every item on their entire menu can be made vegetarian. And Walt, this time I'll make sure they don't forget your coleslaw. Okay, oh boy. We got a lot of code words here, gang. Jalapeno butter maybe is like what? Flavored lube, vegetarian burgers. Let's say that's children with celiac disorder. Fuck. Coleslaw is also come. Fuck. I don't know. Fuck. Okay, fine. They're talking about food. And just to confirm that this is their office sense of humor, I will point to comments like this. Hot Dog Day 2. Wasn't that a ski movie in the 80s? It's cute, right? The more you read of these emails, the more obvious it is that these men are just goofy hot dog loving Americans, like any good Texan should be. Do you really think that they flew in child sex slaves to be placed in their break room, and then they just messaged people going, hey guys, sex slaves are in the break room, enjoy? That's not an office environment I can imagine. But even if they did, these men have nothing to do with Hillary Clinton or the Podestas. This email does not involve them at all. It is from a different leak altogether. And meanwhile, with every single possible detail completely wrong, RP and his retard sidekick are trying to calculate how many Little Caesars pizzas you could get for $65K. And RP arrives at 1,000, which I guess means he thinks one pizza costs $65.
How many people are in attendance? $65,000 is a lot of money for pizza and hot dogs. You know, I mean, you could have gotten, 1,000 hot and readies or something. I don't know.
Keep decoding, boys. I'm sure you'll crack this one soon. So now we've pretty much gone through all of the relevant emails, and not a single one contains evidence of child sex trafficking, pedophilia, or really anything suspicious at all. It's 90% people ordering lunch and 10% cringe humor. So let's add another pizza fact to the board. Pizza fact number 3. The Italian food terms in the Podesta emails are not code words, but actual references to Italian food. There are 0 Podesta emails that contain a single reference, coded or otherwise, to child sex trafficking or pedophilia. So the emails are a complete dud. But it's worth mentioning here that there also are some fake emails that often get bundled together with these real ones, and they were included in many of the documentaries I watched. These Pizzagate documentaries mix in real and fake things, so it's hard to tell the difference at first. For example, this incredible work of fiction that they thought they could just slip in there and we wouldn't notice.
Is that why Hillary emailed Obama, warning him he needed to be more careful next time? The hot dogs can come, but if you make a spectacle out of it, that will be our downfall. And I think it would be wiser to restrict this activity to our predetermined locations. Really? For a few hot dogs?
Finally, someone with some dedication to the lore and appreciation for the fandom. Hilarious work. But yeah, it's so shifty how that crazy cunt from Fall of the Cabal just puts this in her documentary as if it's actually from WikiLeaks. But again, no, this is just Photoshop. But I do love how this creator added Ben Affleck to this thread. Fun. And there's other fakes mixed in too. For example, this one.
Email 1037 has an image that was shared by many different people, and the sender here says, "It doesn't get any better than this," and attached is a file simply called pizza. The attachment shows 2 Asian women biting into the crust of a slice of pizza with a little girl. So what, one might say? An attachment called pizza of people eating pizza? Duh, where's the conspiracy? The only problem with this is that the people that have been confidently identified in this picture are Una Lee and Laura Ling, 2 reporters who were supposedly kidnapped after they were reporting on, you guessed it, child trafficking.
So while there is an actual email called pizza.jpg, WikiLeaks didn't scrape the attachments, only the metadata. So the actual pizza.jpg is lost to time. Probably just a photo of someone eating pizza and enjoying it. But this one is a lie. They put these like kidnapped journalists or something, but it's fake. Someone on 4chan just posted this and pretended it was the pizza.jpg, but it's not. This is a hoax within the hoax. Nobody even knows which emails are real or fake anymore. Like, check this out.
Also, the email from Hillary to Huma asking her to bring a hammer and favorite toy to Comet. Oh my God, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, a hammer and a favorite toy to Comet. Why would you bring a hammer? Maybe to sacrifice the child? And favorite toy? I mean, sex toy? Because they're going to be abusing kids.
You know why you forgot that one, RP? Because it doesn't fucking exist, dumbass. This is obviously fucking Pizzagate fan fiction. The LARP has taken over now, and anything can be an email, and any word in those emails, real or fake, can mean any other word that you want it to mean. This is a group of people losing their minds, and nothing more. Grab a random book off your shelf. If I told you that the word tree actually means penis, you're going to be in for a disturbing read, regardless of what the actual textual meaning of the work was. Replace the word Missouri with Hitler in Huck Finn, and you're going to walk away thinking it's about Nazis. But if you want to actually understand what you're reading, you need to accept that words do indeed have objective meanings. Get off 4chan, hang out with people who aren't pedophiles, and then go back and slowly reread the emails until you can parse them at an 8th grade level. That is your homework, you fucking retards. Now go. Off with you. At this point, you might be asking, why is this even called Pizzagate? There's barely any noteworthy mention of pizza in the emails at all. Why not Walnutgate or Cheesegate or Hot Dog Gate? Those seem to play a more prominent role in the conspiracies so far. The only mention of pizza, really, is some handkerchief that might have been pizza related. Well, friend, I hope you're hungry, because we're about to enter the Pizzaverse. Meet James Alefantis, who, as Pizzagators love to point out, has a name that kind of sounds like the French translation of I love children.
The name James Alefantis can basically be translated in French to mean I like children.
Talk about nominative determinism. Folks, Do we really think his parents named him that just to taunt Pizzagators 50 years in the future? This is actually my favorite Pizzagate contribution, I think. I just find it so charming and wholesome to think Pizzagators actually think they can divine the crimes people have done by associating the phonetic quality of their names with similar sounding phrases in other languages. Oh man, how simple would life be if you could just do that? All the bad guys would have names like Dr. Evil and Doom and Child Lover Man, and all the good guys would have names like Superman and Champ and Hero. Unfortunately, I have to point out that it doesn't quite work. If his name was James L'Enfant, maybe you'd have something, but we've got several syllables mixed up. Also, so what? Liz Crokin sounds like the Swedish word for a roadkill armadillo. What are we supposed to do with these thoughts? Evidently nothing, which is why this particular Pizzagators presents this fact without commentary.
I offer no other commentary on this other than to point out that fact.
True. Not much commentary to make. So anyway, Quiero los Niños was a restaurateur and socialite who was once deemed by GQ to be among the top 100 most influential men in DC. Why? Well, a few reasons. At the time, he was the boyfriend of David Brock, the CEO of Media Matters for America, another influential guy in DC. And also James owned several trendy restaurants and art galleries in the DMV area. His establishments were popular fundraising spots for Democratic Party social events. So he's one of these behind-the-scenes social movers and shakers that can connect candidates to donors, all while enjoying an artisanal slice of pizza and engaging with local artists. Whoa. Slice of pizza, you said? Or should I say, a slice of child? Yes, sir. One of James's most popular restaurants is the infamous Comet Ping Pong, which, again, full disclosure, I have been to and I will be giving you my full review of at the end of this video. So James and Comet Ping Pong come up in the Podesta emails precisely for this reason. Democrats occasionally do fundraising events there. For example, we find emails like this. John, hello. Some young lawyer type friends of mine are hosting an Obama fundraiser at Comet Ping Pong on Thursday night and then watching the debate. Should be about 150 people and they are raising between $25,000 and $35,000. Would you be willing to stop by around 8 o'clock or so and make a little speech? They and I would be thrilled to have you, of course. I understand if you are not available. Also, I saw that you are reading at Politics and Prose soon. Can we do afterward? Would you like to have dinner at my place? Big or small? What do you think? See you soon. Yours, James Olifantis. Okay, I didn't notice any pedophile code words there. Seems like these two are friends and colleagues planning a fundraising event, and Olifantis was hoping that Podesta could come give a speech. So, to help rally support from these rich donors, all with the goal of supporting Hillary for president. Nothing odd here at all. Politics as usual. But for some reason, Pizzagators all seem to think that this pizza shop is somehow an epicenter of child sex trafficking. The same child sex trafficking which was supposed to have already been established by those other emails. Pizzagators used to think there was a secret basement in the pizza shop where they stored the sex slaves or whatever. But then some 4chan guy actually broke into the building with a gun and discovered there was no basement. So now Pizzagators get upset when you talk about the basement and they feel like it's a straw man. But others insist there actually is still a basement.
James recently said in an interview that there is no basement at Comet Ping Pong, and yet in an article a few years prior, he says this. We harvest a whole crop of organic tomatoes, 10 tons of tomatoes every year, can them all, store them in the basement, have like a harvest party when it gets loaded in.
He talks about ripening tomatoes in the basement of Comet Ping Pong.
But then he later claims there's no basement.
Then he claims there's no basement, yes.
RP, I think maybe he's talking about his house. His house has a basement, not the restaurant. Well, it doesn't even matter anyway. Whether or not there's a basement is not relevant. Remember, you don't need a basement to traffic children, and not having a basement doesn't exonerate you. And speaking of things that don't matter, that brings us to the finger quotes evidence of James Alefantis also being a child sex trafficking pedophile Satanist, which is just his personal public Instagram account where he posted photos of his family, friends, and their kids and customers at the restaurant. Sorry, did I say evidence of child sex trafficking? I meant evidence of being a boomer. So you can play the same game with his Instagram as with the emails, and Pizzagators do. If you just decide they're about child sex trafficking, then they become creepy. But at face value, they're just the silly, wholesome, awkward, and sometimes cringy postings of an early social media era boomer. Something that Zoomers don't understand with regard to the old internet and the old social media is, just all these random photos of kids. That's what we used to do. You would just upload hundreds of photos to Facebook, your entire camera roll of all your friends and family and strangers, and you just photo dump. Nobody was meticulously curating their feeds like everyone is now. And again, we all had this really goofy and cringe sense of humor where everything was grandiose and epic with rainbows and Nyan Cat. But also at the same time, it was cool to be edgy and talk about violence and atheism. Insane Clown Posse and Eminem were rapping about murdering people with nails, and Invader Zim was stealing the organs of children on Nickelodeon. We were all reading scary stories to tell in the dark. Edgy stuff was in. Dark humor was in. Remember when we could joke about dark things? You remember telling dead baby jokes as a kid?
I don't care if you're a major comedian. You can't tell me that's funny, because there is no joke about raping children that's funny.
You know the best part about having sex with 23-year-olds? There's 20 of them. Got 'em. Pizzagators, I implore you to remember the concept of humor. Do you really think when James Alefantis commented #murder on his Instagram, was that serious? Do we really think that was a confession of him actually murdering someone? Do we really think that? Was he trying to become a murder influencer? #decapitation, #dead hooker, #I buried a body at the following coordinates. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? They're just being silly. They're being playful. And if anything, the fact that they're all comfortable teasing each other about this proves how confident they are that they're not killer pedos. Normally, people who actually do heinous sex crimes are motivated to overcompensate with squeaky clean public images. Like Jimmy Savile and Bill Cosby, meticulously trying to look like this wholesome family man to mask their evil deeds. Priests who painstakingly craft the public image as a shepherd of children, and meanwhile they're raping them. Or people like RJ May III, a Republican who brashly campaigned on harsher sentences for pedos, but it turns out he was downloading child porn of toddlers. As always, when you're confident in who you are and who you're attracted to, you feel more safe to make pedo jokes. When you really are an evil pedo deep down, you spend every day on defense trying to hide your inner demons with overcompensations and projections. But let's look through the rest of James's Insta and see what we can find. With no context and the intense, scary music from these documentaries playing in the background, and if you've already been tricked into thinking this is a child sex brothel, I understand why some of these images might feel spooky. For example, there's this girl taped to a ping pong table. So what's going on here? To me, obviously, it's just children playing and being silly. But clueless boomers who've already been successfully brought onto the hoax, of course, are going to see this and shit their pants. But this girl is just James's friend's daughter. That's it.
He had posted a picture on his Instagram of a little kid that was taped to a ping pong table. Let me see. Okay, here is the archive of that. The pictures, I would have to say, are what really convinced the most people, because you didn't have to read anything to see this. You could just tell.
What?
You could just tell that something was wrong. But what kind of a person tapes a child to a ping pong table?
I'm speechless.
Yeah. Well, this child was identified as being the daughter of some close friends of James Alefantis, who they are posted in some of these pictures. But, I think the the insinuation must be that there is some deeper level of relationship with this child and James Alefantis and this whole group of people.
A deeper relationship? The fuck are you talking about? Like, literally, gun to your head, Pizzagate believers, what do you think is going on here? People also often point to this post. And I can't believe we're talking about French again, but this shirt, when translated from French, appears to also say, I love children. But actually it's referring to a cafe called Les Enfants. And this guy pictured here, it's not James Alefantis for one. And this guy is the owner of that cafe, which is just a regular cafe, which again makes way more sense than him just proudly wearing a shirt that sincerely indicates that he's a pedophile. Why would he do that? And what would be the point of a pedo cafe or a pedo pizza shop anyway? Like, what does that even mean? Like, parents bring their kids there so pedophiles can rape them and kill them and rip their faces off? Wouldn't that be bad for business? Not gonna get a lot of return customers. I genuinely don't know what the contention even is here, but luckily we have another fake photoshopped image which does a decent job at expanding the lore.
Why does their website have a super secured backdoor to a secret division where you can order pizza pictures for absurd prices? This screenshot was made public by a hacker. It's in low resolution, so I will read out loud what it says at the bottom. This month we have 5 fresh pizzas for your enjoyment. We also have 4 surviving pizzas from last month's session. All are on sale at an extremely low price, as they are in poor health and not expected to survive. So a requirement is that you finish eating your pizza after your session. This month's special includes a 30% discount on severe torture.
And when I mentioned the secret backdoor to the website, which appeared to have the ability for people to order things in code, the idea was that it was a, an ordering system for children of some type.
Jesus fucking Christ. I just can't believe Pizzagators are so gullible to fall for this shit. So clearly they're going for something, again, inspired by the movie Hostel. And while I do appreciate the creativity, this is obviously fake. But of course, it still ends up in most of the Pizzagate documentaries I watched. And speaking of terrible, incorrect research, here's a point I really need to highlight that reveals just how stupid Pizzagators are. So apparently James's Insta profile picture shows a certain Greek statue. Now just listen to how these Pizzagate researchers take that detail and run with it.
Alefantis' previous Instagram profile picture is of Antinous, a Greek emperor whose influence reemerged in the early 2000s, forming a modern cult that attracted a subculture of LGBT polytheists who worshipped Antinous as a deity.
They managed to get like every single detail about this wrong.
Antinous
was not a Greek emperor. He was a lover of Hadrian, who was a Roman emperor. Not an emperor, the lover of an emperor. First of all, what are LGBTQ polytheists? Is that a thing? I didn't know we had gay polytheists worshiping Zeus. I don't think they exist. I really wish they did. And check out this other Pizzagator saying the same stupid shit.
And lastly, and this is something that is not speculative at all, the profile picture of James Alefantis, or Jimmy Comet, is the Greek god Antinous, who apparently was deified as a living god, and it just so happens that Antinous was sexually attracted to young boys.
The brightest minds of Pizzagate can't even read a fucking Wikipedia article correctly. It's all right there. He still calls it a Greek god. He clearly didn't even read this at all.
Antinous
was not sexually attracted to young boys. He was the young person in the relationship dating Hadrian, the older person. None of them are capable of doing even the most basic research. Even today, modern Pizzagators are still getting this basic fact wrong on Tim Pool.
These stories about pizza parties and like the weird, Obama $50,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza and baby oil and stuff. Who are these people that do this?
If you looked at the people who were adjacent to Alefantis, Alefantis had his avatar was Antonius, who was like the most notorious boy lover in Roman history.
What? The most notorious boy lover in Roman history? It's like a game of telephone, and it becomes more and more pedophilic every time the story gets passed on from one 4chan guy to the next.
Antinous
Was not a god. Not an emperor, a pederast, or a pedophile, nor was he even a child. He was just a young adult, but twinkish gay lover of the emperor. He was like the original femboy sugar baby. Gay people like Antinous because he was a fierce, pretty boy, power bottom girl boss who sort of represented all gay people in the pantheon of the characters from Roman antiquity, since there weren't that many. He's the platonic ideal of feminine male beauty. He was so beautiful and loved, he became second to the emperor. That's pretty cool. And something gays and straights do have in common is just being obsessed with ancient Rome. So I guess that's a universal man thing. But no, Antinous being your profile pic has nothing to do with pedophilia or child sex trafficking. If anything, it's probably a reference to the fact that James himself has been the lover to powerful people in DC, like Antinous was to Emperor Hadrian. That interpretation fits a whole lot better with history and what we know about James's life. You can double click on any given thought a Pizzagator has, and it always reveals an impossible scaffolding of misinformation, confusion, and self-deception.
James Alefantis is known as Jimmy Comet on Instagram, and online researchers discovered an incredible number of very strange photos, many with very young children, including very disturbing references found on his account. Many of the comments and hashtags made on the images of his Instagram account, and many other accounts linked to Mr. Alefantis and Comet Pizza, included code words well known and established by the Federal Bureau of Investigation to be codes used by those engaged in acts of pedophilia. For instance, cheese equals little girl, pizza equals girl, hot dog equals boy. You get the point. So the first one we have here is an unnamed baby being fed pizza. The comments say hashtag first pizza and another that says new Comet ad, as in a new ad for Comet Pizzeria. This next image shows a young girl in a beauty pageant and she is highlighted saying, "I just want my pizza," which when knowing the FBI codes means young girl, which is pretty disturbing. Most strange and downright disturbing comments such as, what in the butt? The commenter working on my night cheese has the most interesting name for an Instagram account when taking into consideration what cheese means according to the FBI. In this post we see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and it says Democratic Party, Republican Party, and the box checked is Pizza Party. This post is quite disturbing in that the comments we find someone saying, "Whip me up a Haitian special, extra cheese," which once again, according to the FBI code words, would mean a young Haitian girl.
Direct connection to babies and pizza. And just drives it home.
Sometimes when I see people react to James's Instagram, I see them just recoil in disgust and horror from normal gay things. It's like, wait a minute. I think maybe you're just scared of gay people. And for some reason, they conflate being gay as the same thing as being a pedophile or a sex trafficker. So I don't know. There's always been this homophobic bullshit conspiracy theories about gay people. So I guess this is nothing new. I think lots of straight Pizzagators just don't understand gay culture and it causes them to panic.
Alefantis loves a good party. Now here's a picture he wishes he never posted.
Well, he actually didn't post that. That's not fucking him or his Instagram account. That's some other random person. And also, do you know why there's fake blood and a crazy costume? Halloween, you fucking dumb cunt. I can go through every single photo he's posted and explain why it's not a secret coded confession of pedophilia, but you could also just take antipsychotic medication and spend one night at a gay bar, and that second option would get us there much faster. Let's move on and just summarize our research here with another pizza fact. Pizza fact number 4. There is no evidence to suggest that James Alefantis nor his restaurant, Comet Ping Pong, have anything to do with pedophilia or child trafficking. There is quite literally nothing to suggest that. They're just East Coast gays. So after the emails and James Alefantis' social media posts, what do we have left to decode? Well, don't forget the various artwork that is in and adjacent to these people's lives, such as the fine art purchased by the Podesta family and the bands that played at Comet Ping Pong. We can look for secret pedophile codes there too. And the best part about art is, unlike boring emails and social media comments, art is much more open to interpretation. So every painting can be about child trafficking if you want it to. Let me give you an example of how this game is played. So this Pizzagator is trying to research if Bill Clinton has ever murdered anyone. How would you go about that task? We're investigating murder. What would you do?
But that doesn't make Bill Clinton a murderer, does it? I decided to do more research. I needed more supporting evidence. I went back to the artwork.
Of course. Look at the art on the wall. I love it. This is what Pizzagators mean by doing their own research, by the way. So I mentioned a moment ago that art is open to interpretation, but actually that's only true to an extent. When you're watching Star Wars, there are correct interpretations and incorrect interpretations of that film. Sure, it's a spectrum on both sides. We can agree to disagree on the morality of the rebellion and the nature of the Force. But if you sit here and tell me that Star Wars breaks the fourth wall constantly to present didactic information regarding the succession of the Dalai Lama, you are simply wrong. That's not within the correct range of interpretations. That's not what Star Wars is about. And the same applies even to abstract art, like the "this is not a pipe" painting. Again, I think there's actually a pretty narrow range of interpretations. I think maybe it's a commentary about the concept of representation in media, or it explores the ideas of simulacrum, Platonic ideals, surrealism, the way all things really only exist in our perception of them, etc. You could write interesting, correct books accurately analyzing it from a spectrum of lenses and interpretations that are all valid. But it would be wrong to say this painting is a secret confession of child sex trafficking. If you told me pipe is a Belgian code word for little boy rectum, I would ask you to leave the museum. I just wanted to flag that it is possible to be wrong when analyzing art, especially this guy. Listen to this broken mind churn.
Let's start with words we hear all the time and never even think about. Let's start with the word entertainment. To entertain. What does that mean? To bind or hold. To bind or hold what? An audience's attention. Okay, now let's take the word Hollywood. Where does that come from? Well, Hollywood comes from the holly tree. And the ancient Druids, back in the day, used to take the holly tree, make wands to weave spells, cast spells, or channel spells. And when they needed help, they would consult the magi's or the mediums of the day to help channel their spells to the population. We'll cut to today. What do we have in our houses? We have these black boxes. What are they called? TVs. But if you stop and you say the word television, and when you turn on that television, what do you get? What's the first thing that pops up? A list of channels.
Television? Are you genuinely retarded? This guy is so advanced. He doesn't need emails or art to decode. He can simply decode words themselves. But no, with peace and love, I genuinely do think that this guy has schizophrenia. To the long list of things Pizzagators do not understand, such as making lunch plans, the blogosphere, humor, we must also add art to this list. Listen to this Pizzagator struggle to figure out why movies have sad parts.
Every Disney movie, there's a major character, usually a parent, that gets killed. Trauma to the child. Why? It's so horrible. What a bad story. Why do you need to start a story with a parent dying? Always. It's so sad.
The reason why the mom always dies in Disney movies is because attachment to mothers is something children have a very strong personal connection towards. So they're able to immediately sympathize and empathize with the protagonist, thus becoming emotionally engaged in their hero's journey quest. Having a sad part at the beginning makes the happy ending more rewarding. There. I just saved you $30,000 in film school student loans. For real, this dude sounds like he's on Molly. Why do stories have to have sad parts, man? Why can't we just be happy all the time? Even in My Neighbor Totoro, the most plotless, joyful child LSD trip, pure fun fantasy, even in that movie, the mom is in the hospital. There needs to be conflict in a narrative or we find it boring. Pizzagators of all people should understand this because the very thing which unites and animates their own community is a mutual hatred of the satanic cabal they believe they're fighting. Narrative, whether it be Pizzagate or Pano, needs a little scary danger in order to be compelling. In fact, the more fucked up it is, the more compelling it often is. Hence the face ripping. So whatever this guy thinks Bambi is doing to his brain, I promise all these 3-hour Rumble documentaries you're watching are doing much worse things. As David Lynch shows us, you do need the darkness to appreciate the light. And as Quentin Tarantino shows us, we like violence because it's so much fun, Jan.
Why the need for so much gruesome, graphic violence? Why not let us imagine
Because it's so much fun, Jan. Get it?
That's why Pizzagators often seem so giddy and possessed and like they're on Molly. Shouldn't he be like sad knowing that thousands of babies are getting their faces ripped off daily? But no, they're also happy. Why? Because finding Satan means that you've also now found God and the most righteous possible purpose for your life.
I didn't find God because I went to church. I found God because I realized that the Luciferian and the other side, the occult world, was real, and that I had been fooled for all these years.
Our mission today is to tap into that epic retard headspace and see if we can discover anything and bring it back to our world. So let's do our best to look for child sex trafficking clues in the exciting world of elite liberal fine art.
It's clear that Elefantes loves art. Comet Ping Pong often displays the work of artists with a very specific taste.
What very specific taste? What, Picasso-esque? Representational cubism?
This is the work of Arrington de Dioniso. Why is this on the walls of a child-friendly pizza place?
Why is this hanging in a child's pizzeria? Well, it's fucking not. It's not. Another painting by that artist it was the other painting by the same artist. That's like saying, why did Disney make Eraserhead? Well, they didn't. They made The Straight Story, which is also by the same artist, but considerably less disturbing. Also, this isn't a child's pizzeria. I don't know why people keep saying that. I would describe Comet Ping Pong as more like a family-friendly hipster pizza shop. The menu was full of local craft beer and exotic bougie pizza flavors, and as we've seen, they do cool punk rock shows and stuff. This isn't Chuck E. Cheese, as one Pizzagator seems to imagine.
Now remember, this is a children's pizzeria. I can't imagine heading to Chuck E. Cheese's, where a kid can be a kid, and seeing a band called Sex Stains.
So the most cited piece of art evidence is this band called Heavy Breathing, fronted by an artist by the name of Majestic Ape. They're a very edgy, artistic, queer, feminist type group that seems designed specifically to freak out the squares, as bands have been doing since the 60s. So Heavy Breathing has this really strong aesthetic that's like Tim and Eric, lo-fi, green screen, absurdist humor with a dash of cultural satire and Residence-esque visual style.
There once was a college turd with a Jew fro. He read all the blogs, went to all the shows. At his non-profit job, downloading fads, jerking his worm to American Apparel ads. He rubbed and he tugged, but nothing came out. Great Scott, I've been neutered, he began to shout. How did this happen? Makes no sense at all. Are my pants too tight? Constricting my balls?
It intentionally has sort of a creepy feel, like many great artists do. Think Zuzu or Throbbing Gristle or David Lynch. You may not like it, but all the kids at RISD are into it. And hey, c'est la vie. Me, I'm a Beatles fan myself, but it's also cool how these edgy queer artists push the boundaries, you know? Y'all ever heard of John Waters, Kerouac, Sophie, Arca, Cher? So What does this have to do with child sex trafficking? Well, Comet Ping Pong, being run by the cool gay men with bold taste that they are, invited them, heavy breathing, a cool local band to play there. And during their show, Majestic Ape, who plays a character on stage of like a Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale ethereal witch goddess, appears to make a joke about eating children. All of these videos are so noisy and jumbled that no one can really tell what she's saying.
It's going to be constant years, thousands of years. Ding dong. Now, ding dong. Hello. Oh, I love your coat.
Can't hear it. Understand.
Cherry is known to hang out down here. He likes world sounds. Tamales.
And little boys.
And children.
No.
We all have preferences.
But to me, it sounds like the line is something like, when it comes to toppings on pizza, we all have preferences, she says. And then someone shouts out, little boys, as a joke to build on the bit. It's this calculated storytelling device designed to make all the present kids, if any, go, ah! If you've ever told a campfire ghost story or played with children ever, you know it's a good way to engage the children by telling them there's a monster who preys on little kids. Think Pan's Labyrinth, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Hansel and Gretel, literally every children's book or movie ever. You remember when your uncle was like, there's a monster who eats little boys if they don't do their chores? Guys, she's embodying this character as part of the artistic performance. Boomers. Remember Kiss? Gene Simmons was not really a demon from hell. Ozzy Osbourne? Well, maybe he was. Sorry, no, that was a joke. I forgot. We can't joke anymore. Ozzy was not really a demon from hell. You would have to be totally schizophrenically insane to think that this, an artist wearing a costume with a voice modulator during an art performance on camera, would candidly and sincerely admit to her desire to genuinely consume the flesh of children. Ask yourself, do you think this was shtick or sincerity? Does fiction exist at all or not? Are all books real? Have you guys ever seen an actor in a movie? They don't really believe the words they're saying. That's what acting is. Like, sir, that's not really Spider-Man. He's pretending, son. Like, listen, we can either autistically take every single word people say at face value or not. But you can't just pick and choose. If Majestic Ape is truly a proud, unabashed child cannibal, then the Podestas were talking about pizza. It can't be both. I feel stupid for having to explain this, so let's move on from these art rock bands for now. Next, we have the visual art collected by the Podestas. These are rich yuppies, so of course their house is decorated with like expensive ass paintings from trendy modern artists. All of the artists we're about to talk about are women, feminists, and create works of art that deal with their own struggles and anxieties. But Pizzagators just look at this art and see female bodies. And so I guess they just think it's some kind of fucked up porn. Hey, Pizzagators, not all paintings that feature women are designed to make you horny. Women can be nude and sad too. That's actually the default state of woman. But none of the figures in the Podesta's art are even like nude women or sexual at all. It's just maybe slightly odd and unsettling art. Real quick, what are we doing here? We're trying to prove that Hillary Clinton ripped the face off of one of her innumerable satanic child fuck toys. And Pizzagators think that as evidence to that end, we should consider looking for secret codes in other paintings by a random artist whose other less creepy paintings were put on display in the hallway of the house of the wife of the brother of the campaign manager of Hillary Clinton. Okay, did you follow that transitive accusation chain here? Hillary Clinton's manager's brother's wife has a weird painting across from the guest bedroom. That's one of the biggest pieces of evidence we have here. This is futile and, dare I say, retarded. You will never find any evidence by looking at the Persian rugs or the tchotchkes of Hillary's gardener's daughter-in-law's apartment in Chelsea. I don't care if Obama's speechwriter's cousin has a copy of Lolita in his Airbnb in Chicago. What are we doing here? Are there children in cages under the city or not? Are they raping babies or not? Anyway, let's get back to looking at these paintings. So these paintings of what appear to be girls in swimming pools appear in virtually every Pizzagate doc. Why? I truly don't know.
The second artist we're going to look at is Biljana Đurđević. I'm just going to present a few of her pieces here without any commentary.
Oh, you're just going to present them with no commentary. Great. Okay, I'll provide the commentary then. I find them melancholy. Reminds me of the awkwardness of growing up, the coldness of school settings. Sorry, what? It made you think of sex?
No one has ever explained why John Podesta has literal pedophile and cannibalism paintings all over his office and his home. Tony Podesta too.
What the hell are you talking about? I don't see that at all. I just don't understand how Liz Crokin can look at these images of Tony's house and then say it has, quote, literal pedophile cannibal paintings all over it. Ma'am, it actually doesn't. It has 0 of those. Let me share with you one of the funniest moments in any Pizzagate doc. The dumb European bitch from Fall of the Cabal thinks she discovered the real pool from this painting.
I was intrigued by the bathroom or swimming pool or whatever it was. Where was it? When this appeared on 8chan, I knew I was on the right path. Not just me, but thousands of Anons searched for it and found it. It actually existed.
First of all, bitch, it looks nothing alike. Second, there are thousands and thousands of pools that all look more like this. And third, paintings aren't real. This isn't a photo. Does this bitch know how to fucking tie her shoes? Jesus Christ. Moving on. So Tony Podesta has this statue called the Arch of Hysteria in his house. And the artist who made it said it was inspired by women undergoing Freudian psychoanalysis or something like that. It's just some bullshit feminist art that they tackily put up in their room for clout. But let's guess how Pizzagators interpret this. It's clearly not a child, so what else can we do? Well, virtually every Pizzagate documentary claims that this statue was inspired by Jeffrey Dahmer.
This piece is called Arch of Hysteria. It greatly resembles the work of Jeffrey Dahmer, a serial killer who liked to dismember his victims and leave them in a somewhat awkward position.
Which just seems odd to me because the number one thing that everybody knows about Jeffrey Dahmer was that he was a cannibal. He dismembered his victims and ate them. This statue has nothing to do with that. So yeah, I just don't follow this one, Pizzagators. But also, like, let's say that Tony Podesta put a framed portrait of Jeffrey Dahmer himself hanging in their living room. That would be odd for sure. But it still wouldn't be evidence for child sex trafficking or cannibalism or murder. If every single person who's weirdly obsessed with Jeffrey Dahmer is also a murderer, then the entire user base of Netflix needs to be locked up. So yeah, it's up to you whether you like this art or not. I'll agree with you 6 ways to Sunday if you say that rich people have shitty taste in art. I mean, that's obvious. They just buy whatever shit the Venice Biennale says is significant that year. Oh, women suffering and girls being glum is in. They don't care about style or decor or aesthetic or even substance. It's just social cachet. It's tax deductible, and it's a bullshit speculative asset to store their wealth in. There's a lot to criticize in the world of fine art, but Pizzagators have found one of the few criticisms that's even more stupid than the oeuvre of Damien Hirst. This is what I don't get. 4chan people spend their whole day scrolling through a feed of cartel beheadings, Nazi diatribes, anime child porn, violent incel rants, mosque shooter manifestos. But we're all mad because this Dutch woman is making odd statues? What is going on? If we all just got off 4chan and Twitter and spent the same amount of time perusing online gallery openings, you all would be so much less fucked up in the brain. So let's move away from visual art for now and talk about a little something called performance art. Okay, I have another request. Just like how I said no more joking about anything, especially Moloch, I think we have to just stop doing all performance art too, period. It's scaring the retards. They don't understand it. They think it's real witches casting spells and stuff. It's not worth it anymore, guys. Performance art often intentionally blurs the lines of reality and fiction. Like when Andy Kaufman wrestled women. Pizzagators would really struggle with that one. Marina Abramovic is one of the most renowned performance artists. She's like the David Blaine of performance art. She does these bold artistic stunts like sitting silently in a gallery with random objects and letting strangers do anything to her that they want. One of Marina Abramovic's most famous performances was called spirit cooking. Spirit cooking is not a type of actual cooking, as this one Pizzagator hilariously believed.
The fact that a presidential candidate and her campaign chairman are being invited by close personal friends to a cooking of these sorts.
A cooking of these sorts? I love it. No, spirit cooking was just the name of one of her performances, originally done at a gallery in Italy in 1996. This particular performance involved her basically painting poetry on a wall using like fake period blood or whatever. She's a bold, provocative, and yes, arguably grotesque artist. But like it or not, she is very revered in the fine art world. But naturally, the uncultured swine of 4chan are totally unequipped to process this. Just look at the YouTube comments on this performance. People really believe she's doing like real magic. So Tony Podesta, the fine art collector, has been a patron of hers for years. And in one of the leaked emails, we see that Marina invited him to an actual dinner that was going to be inspired by her performances. He declines and does not attend. End of story. But even if he did go to dinner with her, she isn't a Satanist. He isn't a Satanist. None of them are pedophiles. None of them are talking about trafficking. Magic isn't real. Witches aren't real. And as always, we're just talking about dinner plans. It's always just dinner plans. Why is it always just food? Like, Liz Crokin got so disturbed by this event that Marina directed at the Mocha in LA, where they had a cake shaped like a person.
You Google Marina Abramovic's name in spirit cooking, and you will find hundreds of pictures of Marina Abramovic's events where they will have, for example, a cake that looks like a human being, and they'll depict human cannibalism. And they claim they're not engaging in cannibalism.
Eating cake shaped like a person doesn't make you a cannibal. Bitch, it's cake. To be cannibalism, it would need to be a cake-shaped human, not the other way around. And yeah, this is an art gallery. It's art cake to celebrate the gala at an art gallery. When I was a kid and I had SpongeBob cake for my birthday, that was not me disclosing my satanic desire to consume the flesh of SpongeBob. I just thought it was hard as fuck. If you don't like this art, that's fine. But no one can deny that 4chan and Twitter are full of worse things every single day. Where would you rather let your child explore freely? 4chan or the Mocha? I think I would prefer an art gallery that features the entire collection of the Podestas, for sure. There's nothing there that would even be considered like PG-13. I don't know about you guys, but when I was 7, all I wanted to see was like anime dudes fighting and orcs getting slaughtered and battles and war and violence. And right now, my favorite piece of art is probably Dark Souls. Dark Souls is like my favorite thing. But in real life, believe it or not, I don't know how to use swords and shields, and I don't slaughter dogs or consume Estus. There's a pretty big difference between the content of the art I enjoy and me as an actual person in real life. That's actually how it works for all humans. Art is just art, and nothing about the Podesta's taste in art or the bands that play at Comet Ping Pong comes remotely close to being evidence for Pizzagate. To me, analyzing the art preferences of Hillary's campaign manager's brother is just a waste of time. So let's try to get back on track. At this point, we've pretty much gone through all of the evidence, but there's this other little meme that gets attached to the Pizzagate story. So, back in 2003, a 3-year-old British girl named Madeleine McCann disappeared while on vacation in Portugal. This is a long, complicated, and sensational story. There's actually an 8-part Netflix series about it. But TLDR, the Portuguese police suspect that Madeleine probably died in an accident while the parents were neglecting her at dinner, and then they just covered it up to not admit fault. Or maybe the British authorities seem to think that it may have been a routine gang kidnapping of rich tourists for ransom, which is something that unfortunately is not unheard of in the region, in Portugal. The case remains unsolved today, but Pizzagators actually think they've cracked it. Duh, dude. Of course. It was John and Tony Podesta. How did the Anon solve this cold case that stumped investigative authorities in multiple countries as well as hordes of true crime enthusiasts? Well, friend, one of the many angles in this investigation into her disappearance was that some random Portuguese woman claims to have seen a suspicious-looking man heading towards the beach holding a child that day. And based on her recalled description of that man, a sketch artist produced these 2 possible illustrations of that one suspicious guy that she saw. But even though she only saw one person, according to Pizzagate believers, the Podesta brothers both personally went to Portugal and personally snatched Madeleine themselves while her parents were mere meters away at dinner. And then I guess they brought her back to DC to do Pizzagate things to her. Boom. Come on, guys, you see it, right? I mean, okay, it does kind of look like them. The only problem is it was just one guy she saw, so it can't be both Podesta brothers. Also, Tony wears glasses, so that sort of negates it. Also, unfortunately, the Podestas both do have an alibi. They were in America at the time and not Portugal, because they live in DC. So yeah, the Podestas do kind of look like the sketch, but it's just a simple sketch that someone did based on another person's description from memory of a guy who may or may not even be involved in this at all. So yes, the Podestas vaguely look like that. But so does this guy, and this guy. And all these guys. There's probably thousands of dudes who were actually in the continent or the country or the city that look more like them. Looks like a standard Portuguese man to me. And this is all just based on one eyewitness verbally recalling what she looked like to another sketch artist. Imagine if I said, describe your mother to me. Nose? Eyebrows? And then I started doodling. What do you think the odds are that I can find some random person in politics whose juxtaposed photo would look similar? Also, the witnesses described the man as white, aged between 20 and 40. In 2007, Tony was 64 and John was 58. Also, another witness produced this sketch of the potential perpetrator. How come Pizzagators never include this one in their documentaries? Or this sketch, also produced by a witness, also of the potential perpetrator. These obviously look nothing like the Podestas. There's actually like half a dozen other sketches too that were produced by investigators in this case. Why are there so many sketches? But it's a little suspicious how Pizzagators ignore all of them except for these 2. It's almost like their motivation here isn't actually to find out what happened to Madeleine, but really just to find a way to make this become about people who clearly had nothing to do with it. This is, like everything related to Pizzagate, stupid. Also, if any of the authorities actually thought they were involved, why didn't they ever, talk to them or investigate them or indict them or arrest them or anything? We again have this situation where Pizzagators merely present these photos and go, no comment needed. It's so obvious, bro. No, please tell me specifically what you're accusing them of. Do you really think Tony is sitting at home and he suddenly notices he's run out of child paste sweetener? So he hops on his private jet to Portugal with his brother along for the ride. And they grab a child? Aren't there kids in DC? But also, these guys are rich as fuck. Don't they have other channels so they don't have to do this personally? Can't he have his henchmen be the one doing the physical grabbing and abducting? I feel like he has more important things to be worrying about. This would be like a lower level of labor in the cabal chain of command. And as per usual, because this is obviously fucking stupid, Pizzagators have to invent lies to make it more compelling. This Pizzagate documentarian completely makes up this idea that both Podesta brothers actually were staying in Portugal at the time of her disappearance. But not only that, they were staying at the house of a famous Portuguese pedophile.
The Podesta brothers have been confirmed to have been staying in Portugal the day of her disappearance at the house of former Member of Parliament Sir Clement Freud, who is a convicted pedophile and who happened to live a third of a mile down the street from where Madeleine McCann was abducted.
But to be very clear, he just made this up. It's just obviously not true. We know the Podestas were in DC at the time. This is just another instance where I think Pizzagators are just bluffing because they think we don't know how to use Google or are too lazy to do it. It's just a lie. But I do love the image of the two Podestas over there in Iberia, like Wario and Waluigi doing crime together. As someone who's a fan of the Pizzagate universe, I just feel disappointed by this laziness of narrative. Come on, Pizzagators. Use a little more imagination. You can't make it so obvious that you're making shit up. Do better. As we get further into the bottom of the barrel for Pizzagate, we also have to mention this tangential conspiracy theory, which even Trump has publicly indulged in.
Everyone knows, of course, Hillary's belief that it takes a village, which only makes sense, after all, in places like Haiti, where she's taken a number of them.
This clip might be confusing to non-Pizzagate people. What is the joke here? Well, Trump is referring to the conspiracy theory surrounding Laura Silsby, who, folks, is technically a child trafficker. That's right, folks. We finally have a real case of actual child trafficking. Can you believe it? Well, just to be clear, it was not sex trafficking. She wasn't a pedophile. It's actually kind of the opposite of that. Actually, she was trying to help provide aid to orphans in Haiti who she thought were alone and devastated after the massive earthquake that destroyed their city, already one of the most impoverished in the world. So Laura went to Haiti with a group of Christian missionaries from her Baptist evangelical church from Idaho. Their plan was to charter a bus and bring these orphans from their town just outside Port-au-Prince to the other side of the island, across the border in the Dominican Republic, the relatively more affluent side of the island, where these missionaries could provide adequate resources for the orphans and ultimately get them adopted into nice Christian families in the States. That was their plan anyway. They even got permission from the government of the Dominican Republic to bring the children into their care. And the operation was coordinated with locals in Port-au-Prince who fully supported the missionaries taking the orphans under their care. But unfortunately, she did not get permission from the unstable and chaotic Haitian government at large, and so the bus of children was stopped at the border and the missionaries were all arrested. And to make matters worse, it turns out many of the orphans weren't actually orphans. They were just children of desperately poor parents who couldn't afford to care for their children and thought they would have better lives by getting adopted by Americans. So this whole thing was just a well-intentioned debacle that definitely is more of an ethical gray area than a crime against humanity. Ultimately, the charges against everyone was dropped except Laura, who faced a sentence of arranging irregular travel, which is really nowhere near child sex trafficking or ripping the faces off babies. In other words, this has nothing to do with Pizzagate at all. As with Madeleine McCann, this is just a random story from a different country that involves none of the characters from Pizzagate. The only tangential connection here is that Bill Clinton was appointed by the UN as relief coordinator for the earthquake, and because Hillary was Secretary of State at the time that this happened, she had some diplomatic say in getting this debacle resolved. So I guess that's how we make this about Pizzagate. But Laura Silsby and her church have nothing to do with the Clintons, or the Podestas, or James Alefantis, or anything related to our story. But no, despite what Pizzagators say, she didn't pay for Laura's legal fees or anything like that. Laura and her church were independent Christian missionaries doing their own thing. That was their motivation to traffic these children. She was trafficking them because Jesus told her to. And remember, all of our Pizzagate characters are like gays and atheists atheists. So I think it's kind of funny that the one actual case of child trafficking is an evangelical Christian. The call really comes from inside the house every single time, doesn't it, boys? Which also makes sense because, who sacrifices children to a deity? Well, not atheists. Christians, maybe. It's actually in the Bible. It's actually kind of the main point of the Bible to sacrifice your son for the greater good. But if you're not religious, well, you'd never really have a reason to do ritual sacrifice, would you? The concept of ritual sacrifice doesn't really make sense unless you also worship a deity who takes bribes. I think a lot of Pizzagators just don't really know any of the details of this story. Then just hear the words Clinton and Haiti, and they start picturing Maersk shipping crates full of Creole babies being unloaded into Miami for delivery to Comet Ping Pong for crushing into paste for the tomato sauce. But as you can see, the true story has nothing to do with any of that, and really only reinforces the idea that naive, self-righteous, deluded religious people who dedicate their lives to #saving the children actually really just end up making things worse and causing trouble. I guess we're doomed to repeat Coney 2012 forever until you idiots can stop LARPing. Now that we know the true story of what happened regarding Laura Silsby, let's listen to how these confused Pizzagators try to twist it.
In 2010, right after the devastating earthquake, 33 children were smuggled out of Haiti. These kids had simply been abducted, stolen from their parents. Sounds to me like she had a way to smuggle children out of the country real easy. Nice cover.
Well, okay, so we left off last week with Laura Silsby, okay? And I had said that this is kind of like, the true kernel of the origins of Pizzagate, because it has to do with child trafficking, has to do with government-sponsored child trafficking. And, so that means that there was the taint of, child abuse, child trafficking surrounding her. People were aware of that.
It might be pertinent to point out here that Hillary and Bill Clinton have a laundry list of cohorts and associates that have been busted for child trafficking or pedophilia. I'm just going to briefly mention a few here. First, we have Laura Silsby, former director of the New Life Children's Refuge, was caught trying to steal 33 children.
Oh, nice try, dummies. As you can see, Pizzagators take every opportunity they can to distort, lie, and defame. In reality, this story doesn't fit the Pizzagate narrative at all, which is why the conspiracy theory requires retards like this crew to continually spout spooky nonsense to make everything seem more scary than it really is. Okay, we're going to quickly go over one more little thing that actually completely predates Pizzagate, but you often see thrown into the mix of evidence. Andrew Breitbart, an old dead political pundit, who in many ways was the John Podesta of the right, tweeted something very odd back in 2011.
Conservative reporter Andrew Breitbart, founder of Breitbart.com, spoke of John Podesta and his supposed sex crimes in a tweet from 2011, where he said this: "How progressive guru John Podesta isn't a household name as a world-class underage sex slave op cover-upper defending unspeakable dregs escapes me."
Whoa, a guy baselessly accusing another guy of being a pedo on Twitter? Well, case closed, fellas. So what the hell is he talking about? Well, Andrew is dead, so we can't ask him what he meant. But the bottom line is, if Andrew can baselessly accuse him of being a pedo, well, I accuse him of being a pedo. See, I can do it too. Andrew Breitbart is a pedophile. And post. Boom. Time to update your documentaries, Pizzagators. A new piece of intel from an anonymous high-level whistleblower just dropped. I guess, to be fair, he's not actually saying John Podesta is a pedophile. He's accusing him of being involved in covering up a crime? But what crime? Well, we know it's not Pizzagate, since that hasn't happened yet. And it's also probably not Epstein, because, Podesta has nothing to do with that case, and obviously Trump is the one who covered that up. Anyway, so gun to my head, why did Andrew tweet this defamatory bullshit? Oh, probably for the same reason Elon called that innocent dude a pedo guy, too. These people people are just little petty bitches. Everybody knows that implying someone is a pedo is like the most socially damaging slander to sling. So sure, if you're a spineless coward seeking to win the game of politics, you're gonna call your political enemies pedos every single day of the week. The backstory here is that Andrew was famously Podesta's nemesis and was constantly trying to slander and hurt him politically. This was kind of his whole mission in life, to damage the Democratic Party. So a false slanderous attack like this is sort of exactly what you'd expect from a petty bitch like Andrew Breitbart. But my guess is that this tweet is supposed to be a reference to this Project Veritas stunt involving an organization called ACORN, or the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, which was an NGO that, according to Wikipedia, did left-wing community-based organization that advocates for low and moderate income families by working on neighborhood safety, voter registration, healthcare, affordable housing, and other social issues. John Podesta was one of several people on ACORN's advisory council. So obviously Andrew Breitbart doesn't want poor people getting financial support or being registered to vote. So Andrew published the work of village idiot James O'Keefe, who went into ACORN and did one of his signature zany hidden camera pranks. In this case, he's talking to somebody from ACORN and starts asking questions about funding a hypothetical small business. And gradually, he starts to reveal that he, James O'Keefe, is pretending to be a pedophile pimp operating a fake child brothel. And then he asked how he could go about getting a loan for his business. And the underpaid, bored employee gives a stock answer telling him he would need to fill out a form and do X and Y in order to apply for funding. And then James clipped this and pretended that the government was doing child sex trafficking. But the whole thing was just a big dumb hoax that political operatives like Andrew Breitbart pushed in order to further their electoral agenda. This would be like if I drove through Wendy's and was like, "Hello, sir, I am the Zodiac Killer. May I have a cheeseburger?" And then after I finished my meal, I went on Twitter and was like, "Wendy's supports murderers. They're covering up the Zodiac." Truly brain dead retard shit. So yeah, that employee probably should have been fired or trained better or whatever. ACORN did have some problems as an organization, for sure, but none of them had anything to do with pedophilia or child sex trafficking. And they were investigated by multiple independent bodies after this, and no criminal activity was found. The only pedophile in this story was James O'Keefe's character. There was never any actual sex trafficking. He literally just made it up, and now Andrew Breitbart is pretending that Podesta, someone only tangentially related to this, is covering up a crime that doesn't exist. So yeah, Pizzagators make two mistakes regarding this tweet. The first is taking it seriously at all, and the second is to thinking it has anything to do with Pizzagate. So we discussed Laura Silsby, who was technically our one actual trafficker, tangentially related to other people who are tangentially related to Pizzagate. But now I'm excited to announce that we finally have our first actual pedophile. Dennis Hastert was a long-running Speaker of the House back in the Bush years. But then, in 2015, we learned that he was paying hush money to cover up some skeletons in his closet. Turns out, back in the 70s, when Dennis was a high school wrestling coach, he sexually abused his students. But Pizzagators still managed to get this story just totally wrong. According to RP, he raped a bunch of boys.
Do you know Dennis Hastert?
No.
He was a Republican congressman who was a longtime congressman and convicted of raping a bunch of boys.
But no, he didn't rape anyone. This is an extreme exaggeration. He would peep on them in the shower, say he was doing a sports massage, and then inappropriately touch them. Classic creepy gym teacher stuff like that. Very bad, very fucked up, very awful. But he wasn't raping them in the ass, RP. I think that's worth noting. I hate to be that guy again, but If these boys were in high school, that doesn't actually make him a pedophile, again, according to the dictionary definition. Since his victims were age 14 to 17, these would be considered adolescents, not prepubescent children. Again, that would make him like a evil sexual predator, a horrible sexual abuser of underage boys, sure, whatever you want to say. But you can't say he was a pedophile who raped people. He abused his power over these young, innocent teens, and that's awful and condemnable, of course, but it's not pedophilia. So I guess the total pedophile count in this video is actually still 0. I guess Jimmy Savile was a pedophile. But Dennis Hastert is nowhere near the dark face-ripping Hillary character we're looking for. To be so clear, I'm not excusing or defending abusing underage kids at all. Lock that fucker up. He should not be the Speaker of the House. But it's worth distinguishing the difference. It's like if somebody came to me and said, Grandma was decapitated. And then later I found out that, oh, she actually died in her sleep peacefully. I'm like, why did you use the word decapitate? Sure, it communicates the most important, essential aspects that she died, but it's a needlessly inaccurate exaggeration. And then you're like, what? Are you saying it's okay she died? No, I'm just saying there's a difference between decapitation and peaceful death. Both can be bad, but they're pretty different levels of bad, aren't they? And if we just say all death is decapitation, then the term becomes meaningless. And then we can't talk about actual decapitation. So Dennis Hastert was not technically a pedophile, and definitely not a trafficker, and not a Satanist, but he was a predator, a molester, a sex abuser of boys at a high school in 1979. So why the fuck are we talking about him in this video? Well, Pizzagators try to rope him in as an example of an actual guy who did sex crimes. Pizzagators present him as a good friend of John Podesta. And yeah, they were colleagues in DC, along with hundreds of other people. They're trying to invoke the transitive property of pedophile.
Now, Hastert eventually admitted to molesting kids while he was working as a teacher. And Tony Podesta kept in regular contact with him. And that was shown through the Podesta emails. Pedophilia is so intricately connected to the Podesta family.
Pizzagators think because John Podesta knew this guy, well then John Podesta must also be guilty of similar crimes. But again, that's just not how things work on any level. If my coworker got a DUI in the 80s and we grabbed lunch at Panera one day, I cannot be condemned for endangering lives. That would be psychotic. This Pizzagate website says that Dennis and the Podestas were, quote, good friends. But then you click on it and it's kind of confusing because this email exchange doesn't support that at all. Dennis Hastert isn't even in the Podesta emails. They never even emailed each other. What we have here is some random Japanese guy inviting Tony Podesta to a UN Foundation dinner, and he casually mentions that among other people, Dennis Hastert, who he vaguely knows, will be there. And then Tony goes, oh yeah, Dennis Hastert, quote, I have stayed in touch with Denny Hastert. Apparently they all went camping together in Japan 50 years ago. But whoa, gross. Why would these guys be associating with a high school molester? Well, maybe because at the time, no one knew about it. These allegations didn't emerge until after these email exchanges. Because yeah, Dennis had successfully paid the victims millions to keep quiet. This was before we knew. But also, it's so bizarre to focus entirely on the Podestas here, like they were his only friend. Evidently, Dennis had a lot of other friends, most of which were Republicans, not Democrats, because Dennis managed to rise through the ranks of the Republican Party and become the second in line for the president for years. Yeah, I guess Republicans don't really mind his molesting either, because he was the longest serving Speaker of the House in the history of the Republican Party. So if we're going to condemn people for associating with him, let's condemn Bush and all Republicans, not Podesta for going camping with him once 5 decades ago. But Pizzagate people somehow try to just only connect him to Podesta. Why? Because I guess we only have the Podesta's emails, and they just can't imagine that literally every person in DC also has emails that just haven't been leaked yet. I think they're overestimating the importance of Podesta's emails, because those are the only ones they get to read. Every politician is sending emails every day in DC. They just haven't been leaked. This little slice they have access to appears to them to be the sum total of all machinations in DC, I guess. It's just so funny that John Podesta must be sent to Gitmo because he associated with a colleague who we later found out molested boys 45 years earlier. But then on the other hand, we have Trump, best friend with Epstein for 10 years, but QAnons never think twice about that. Truly hilarious. So to be very clear, Dennis Hastert molested kids in high school in the 70s, and that's bad. But what does that have to do with Pizzagate? Nothing. Jesus Christ, this is so exhausting. Okay, we're finally ready to move on to the final piece of evidence for Pizzagate, and we saved the best for last. Now it's finally time to talk about the real FBI document of pedo symbols, and we'll see if those can finally reveal the hidden cabal to us. The FBI apparently did release a document of pedophile symbols. This is the real document that people often conflate with the 4chan screenshot.
You have right here the BLB logo, aka boy lover logo. It's a triangle with a swirl inside, okay? You have the little boy lover logo, which is more of a circled swirl, but still, has that triangle shape to it. You have the girl lover logo, also called child love. It's a heart inside of a larger heart. And then you also have this child lover logo, which is, hearts in the shape of a butterfly.
So supposedly pedos of different stripes use or at one point used these symbols to indicate their preferences to each other or something. But Epstein didn't use these shapes when he was flying around the Lolita Express with Trump and Clinton. Jimmy Savile didn't use these shapes when he molested children in hospitals. And Dennis Hastert didn't use these shapes when molesting high school boys, obviously. As far as I know, there's never been an example of these symbols being used by actual predators in instances of actual child trafficking. And let's look at these symbols for a second from an aesthetic perspective. Guys, listen, how can I say this? Okay, so when I was in college, I took a graphic design class, so I have some authority on this subject. These are very simple shapes, so while pedos may be using these, not every instance of these shapes will be a pedophile. In fact, most will likely not be pedophiles, considering how rare pedophiles are statistically speaking, and when whatever even rarer subset there may be actually using these particular codes. So it would be a terrible idea to walk around your city looking for triangular spirals to hunt pedos. You will certainly find them everywhere, along with concentric hearts and probably all of these. Consider the swastika. This little shape, composed of radially symmetrical right angles, is very simple, and it's just an aesthetically pleasing shape. And there's only so many aesthetically pleasing shapes like this. So it's no wonder that these shapes have appeared in all kinds of places and all kinds of contexts throughout history. For the Navajo people, it meant like peace and love. And in Japanese texting lingo, it means like hell yeah. So you can't hunt for Nazis by looking for shapes in the clouds like this. And the same goes for pedos. What this FBI document does to people with schizophrenia is they now get to play visual Mad Libs. It used to just be words. If you say pizza, you're a child sex trafficker. But now, if you draw this shape, you're a child sex trafficker. And that opens up a whole new avenue of windmill tilting. You wouldn't believe the innumerable places these design motifs appear.
When you realize that these symbols are pedophilic symbols, you start looking for it and you start seeing it all over the place.
But are there any other examples showing the apparent use of these pedophile codes? Well, you tell me.
Wow, something smells good. Yeah, let's go. Yum, 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 yum.
Here is the original Besta Pizza logo. This just a couple of doors down from Comet Ping Pong. And they just happen to have the Boy Love logo inside that piece, that slice of pizza. I haven't looked into them in quite some time. But, Again, just very coincidental for a place that, has no connection to child trafficking or child molestation or pedophilia. And on their menu, they have ping pong paddles crossed over each other, which kind of resembles the child lover logo. And then this is the exterior signage for Comet Ping Pong. And you've got the stars and the moon, also represented in this image of Baphomet right there. That's not like the most convincing. Here is a picture of James Alefantis wearing glasses, which have the swirls on them. Now, this also may not specifically be a representation of those symbols, but it's close.
Comet Ping Pong on their menu had a logo similar to the child lover logo. The words play, eat, drink are displayed inside the paddles, and this just so happens to be an acronym for PED, or pedophile for short. And what can only be more than coincidental, these logos are used in businesses surrounding Comet Ping Pong. Besta Pizza clearly was using a pedophile symbol in their logo till it was recently changed after the scandal broke. And 2 stores away from Beyond Borders is Terrasol Bistro and Artisan Gallery, which has displayed yet another FBI pedophile logo. To put it bluntly, it has been strongly implied by many who have invested time and commitment into this investigation that the corroborating circumstantial evidence leads to the very real possibility that the owners of these buildings, all of whom are connected directly to extremely high-level people within our government, might all be involved in child trafficking in one way or another.
Pizzagators see these 2 images with zero other context, and they go, oh my god, that pizza restaurant is a pedophile. But there's just about 10 things wrong with that. 1, these 2 graphics look nothing alike. The lines are different. The angle is different. The color is different. These little dots are different. Also, it clearly is a fucking pizza. Also, what is a pedophile pizza shop? Can someone explain that concept to me? Is it like a bikini barista? Is it like Hooters for Italian pedophiles? Are there just sexy children twirling dough inside?
What the hell is sexy about kids?
I just don't understand. The way I see it, that logo could mean 2 things. 1, here we sell pizza and you're gonna have a zesty fun time eating it. Or 2, we are proud pedophiles, and if you come in here, we will all further our pedophile agenda together and you can fuck kids in cages in the basement or whatever. Personally, I'm gonna go with the first one because all evidence suggests it's just a regular pizza shop. And yeah, I mean, the logo does look like pizza. But also, what the fuck is Besta Pizza? What happened to Comet Ping Pong? Their logo is totally different. It's not even remotely similar to any of these pedo symbols. The FBI pedo symbols don't appear anywhere related to the Podestas, in the emails, the pizza shop, or anywhere else. It shows up nowhere, anywhere in this story. So why are we talking about these? It's like if Tony Podesta had this exact symbol perfectly tattooed on his fucking arm or something, then sure, maybe we can talk about that. But there's nothing. Actually, sorry. There is literally one single example of Pizzagators thinking they found one of these pedo symbols. And can you guess where? That's right, in the music video for a band that once played at the pizza shop that once held a fundraiser for the Clinton campaign, which makes Hillary a pedo.
First of all, the name Sex Stains. Now, do you see that? Do you see that right there in that block, John? It's the boy lover logo.
Symbol, yep.
It's the boy lover logo.
But actually, no. Unfortunately, again, if you just spend more than 10 seconds examining this, it's not the fucking same logo at all. The spiral has a different number of sections and it's rotated at a different angle. Also, like, until Pizzagate, no one had ever fucking heard of these symbols. So it's clearly just a cool shape that they thought fit the vibe of the music video. Zany bands having spirals in their mise en scène doesn't get us anywhere. People have always drawn spirals since the dawn of time. They're not all pedo traffickers. This is a bad way of thinking. It just seems like the pattern recognition part of their brain is so out of control and misfiring so much. The real feeling of compellingness they get from making these vapid surface level synchronicities just fries their ability to think clearly about it. I'm not a doctor, but this must be some type of mental disorder as far as I'm concerned. One of the documentaries everyone on r/conspiracy recommended to me was by a guy named Mouthy Buddha. And I did watch the full thing. And I was astounded by the sheer insanity of what I was witnessing. Just listen to his mind jump around and free associate like a dog on meth.
In this image from James, he references pickles and tags a user named Gordy's Pickle Jar. Together they seem to be enjoying a pickle-related inside joke. It turns out Gordy's Pickle Jar is a real establishment in Washington, D.C. that makes cocktail brines, Bloody Mary mixes, and other related spreads. Their Instagram shows them at Comet Ping Pong. And here are both owners, Sarah Gordon and Sheila Fain. On their Instagram is a picture of President Obama and Anthony Bourdain eating in a modest Vietnamese restaurant in 2016. The red words behind them are Vietnamese for not smoking. Either way, after finding that out, I decided to type the words into Google. This video belongs to a massive YouTube channel. With almost all videos showing Vietnamese children and a BH Kids logo. Now, I immediately contacted my brother-in-law, who's a lawyer, and he put me in contact with someone who advised me how to legally research this, where to report the findings, and how to ethically present it. So, upon clicking on one of these images, I discovered that the term BH or BH Kids leads to a plethora of websites showing children modeling underwear. Surprisingly, as you just saw, some of these illicit images showing naked children were suggested to me from Google. So as it pertains to these sites, the term BH or BH Kids acts as a code for child predators. Although it's speculation, other potential uses of the term could include Bad Baby, a sexually explicit minor whose stage name is spelled with the BHBH.
White J's, white Porsche, white wrist, white horse.
Somehow, I was able to find this insidious code from this image and posted from two women intimately connected with James Alefantis. The difficulty in navigating topics like these is knowing whether I'm onto something significant or deluding myself. In the case of BH Kids, however, in the exploitative images that surround it, its sinister function is clear.
BH is the German word for bra. So that's probably why when you Google BH Kids, it shows you pictures of girls in their underwear. Wow. Honestly, bravo, sir. Incredible work. He's just going, grass in the park, park your car, pool, pool your money. Money is the root of all evil. So grass is evil. Like, what the fuck are you saying, sir? Any other findings for us?
I noticed you have this obsession on Instagram with lost gloves.
Well, it's lost objects, but it started with lost gloves. And first of all, there's a story behind them all. What happened? What happened to its mate? How did this glove get lost? Is someone going to keep the other glove at home on the off chance that they're going to pair it up? It's a little bit of, Romeo and Juliet kind of quality to it.
Let's take a look at some of these. I want to put this up.
Notice that in this image, we see another glove. But this time, we also see letters Look closely and spell them out for yourself. What does the top row spell? S-R-C. And what does the bottom row spell? U-S-A. Here's what happens when you run a search for SRC USA on DuckDuckGo. It shows nothing out of the ordinary. The same goes for the Images tab. And the same also goes for Google. To further emphasize how similar Yandex is to Google, here are some control searches. When typing kids, the images are as they should be. The same goes for any other mixture of SRC. So if we search RCS, RCS USA, and some others, all of them are fine. But what happens if we type in SRC USA?
Of course, he fucking ended up back at 4chan. You did it, bro. Your pedophile hunt led you around the world and you ended up back home again. The real pedophiles were the friends you made along the way. Literally. This whole SRC USA thing is so hilarious. How do you explain this? Explain what, bro? The scary music? If you go shopping at a kid's clothing store at the mall, you might see advertising photos of children in underwear. If that bothers you, you are the pedophile. Just get off those websites. Stop Googling photos of children, sir. Google is going to show you the pictures of what you Google. That's how it works. Listen, you can either see that this man is unwell or not. I don't know what else I can add. He's acting crazy. This is a crazy person. Or just a naive child who overestimates his role as the main character in life. I don't know. But Mouthy Buddha, if you're watching this, get off your computer and go to sleep. Just get some rest, bud. Pizza fact number 5. The FBI pedo symbols, though generic and appearing in innumerable non-pedo places, do not appear anywhere related to Comet Ping Pong, the Podestas, James Alefantis, or the Clintons. The game of looking for pedo symbols hiding in plain sight is the most distilled version of the Pizzagate LARP. But on every level, Pizzagate is just about decoding reality to find a different hidden reality. All of this decoding is made possible by a few grand axioms that Pizzagaters all hold without question.
I learned that Satanists believe that they have to reveal who they are in some way, shape, or form. So that is why we see a lot of these occult members in Hollywood constantly flaunting symbolism.
Oh, I didn't realize that Satanists need to reveal their symbols. That's really convenient for you guys. Because if they didn't need to reveal their symbols, you wouldn't be able to play this game at all. So that works really well for you. But for some reason, I have a feeling you would still be finding satanic symbols out in the world at McDonald's either way. But my understanding is that that's not actually how Satanism works, insofar as it's even a real thing. Satanism, by the way, is not actually a religion. It's more of an edgy, hedonistic ideology reacting to the stodginess of Christianity. But there's quite literally nothing in the Satanic Bible or anywhere else that supports this claim that evil Satanists must tell you their plan in code before doing it. Why would that be the case? Pizzagators must believe the contrary, though, because otherwise their hallucinated secret confessions of pedophilia make even less sense. The way I see it, there are 3 conspiracy theorist axioms that allow Pizzagate believers to play this game. Satanists must tell you what they're going to do before they do it. 2, all art is really disclosure. And 3, symbolism will be their downfall.
Let's go back to one of Q's often repeated sentences. Symbolism will be their downfall.
None of these are true. Pizzagators don't understand Satanism, they don't understand art, and symbolism simply has to be their downfall because it's all they have access to. It's like how the Mormons think that the Garden of Eden is in Missouri. Like, of course they do. That's where Joseph Smith was when he decided that he was God. Of course God chose you to talk. You're the only one who can hear the messages you're receiving. The overactive, faulty pattern-finding abilities of these people produce a feeling of genuine meaning being transmitted to them when they see this ridiculous bullshit. Once you feel that intuitive gut reaction to these Rumble documentaries, you have 2 choices to make. Grab that feeling and analyze why you feel the way you do, as I have done in this video, or you just let go and let the feeling overwhelm you and let your emotions fill you. If you believe these axioms, then you have permission to do that. So all of these axioms are arrived at backwards based on feelings. Pizzagators do believe they're detecting these satanic messages, so then they must come up with a reason for why the Satanists are broadcasting them in the first place. Why must Pizzagate be true? Because I feel anxious and scared when I watch those videos. And if my feeling is true, then the conspiracy theory must also be true. Pizzagators can't help but feel these feelings. Their feelings are so strong and powerful like an elephant, and they are merely an impotent rider struggling to control it as it chases the Pizzagate feeling. Schizophrenic people watch movies and can't help but think that entities are trying to communicate coded top secret information to them through the film. So art that doesn't contain hidden satanic messages instead contains good, positive disclosure messages from the government or angels or aliens or whatever. Disclosure is a conspiracy concept that high-level government intelligence military insiders are leaking important intel to you in a coded form through these innocuous channels, like commercials, political speeches, movies, etc. If you keep your eyes open, you can find these disclosure messages hidden everywhere. Or so they think. And why are good guys sending me messages through the TV that only I can hear? I must be chosen for some grand military purpose. Why else would I be hearing them? I must be being educated for a higher calling. I must be the chosen one. And so, of course, symbolism will be their downfall. It has to be. Because there's nothing else to work with. There's no empirical evidence, no victims, no evidence for Pizzagate at all. This entire enterprise exists in the realm of feelings and jumbled symbols mixed with Mad Libs and messages lost in translation. I understand, it all feels real. Your feelings are indeed valid. It's okay that you feel scared, but try not to get carried away by your fear and lose your head. Don't worry, there never was any monster under the bed. I checked. You can go back to sleep now. Okay, we have now officially gone through all of the so-called evidence for Pizzagate. Let's go back and look at all of the pizza facts we've established. Number 1. Historically, 4chan has been a scarcely moderated cesspool of pedophiles, deviants, tricksters, and the mentally ill who are known for their elaborate hoaxes. Number 2. CP is a 4chan slang term for child porn, which they think is tasty and delicious like pie. But it's not an FBI-confirmed code word for pedophile sex traffickers. Number 3. There are 0 Podesta emails that contain a single reference, coded or otherwise, to child sex trafficking or pedophilia. None. Number 4. There is zero evidence to suggest that James Olifantis nor his restaurant, Comet Ping Pong, have anything to do with pedophilia or child sex trafficking. Number 5. The FBI pedo symbols, though generic and appearing in innumerable non-pedo places, do not appear anywhere related to Comet Ping Pong, the Podestas, James Olifantis, or the Clintons. So remember, we were attempting to do an abductive argument for Pizzagate. So now, given all of those true pizza facts, what is the most likely explanation? In other words, what does it all add up to? Well, it seems like nothing. Here is what it seemed like happened with Pizzagate. A community full of genuine pedophiles, mentally ill schizos, and hateful bigots, fueled by the election-meddling cyber attack of an adversary nation, who all together wanted Trump elected at all costs, found an opportunity to will a hoax into existence by desperately attempting to link their own slang term for child porn to Podesta's leaked emails about Italian cooking, in order to concoct an elaborate conspiratorial fantasy that would damage the Democratic Party and help Trump win the election. And somehow, they actually pulled it off, despite it being the dumbest shit I have ever heard in my life. So that's my conclusion of what happened. Now let's go back and compare that to our Mott and Bailey. These people all seem pretty normal. In my opinion, the Mott and the Bailey of Pizzagate are both totally wrong. Not only is there no child sex trafficking, none of them are pedos, or to be honest, I don't even find any of them especially creepy. Snobbish, pretentious, haughty, condescending, sassy, extravagant, irreverent, sure. But hey, you don't have to be friends with them. The creepiest people in this story, as always, are the Republicans, the Christian evangelists, and you, the 4chan users obsessed with hunting pedos who don't actually exist, all while projecting your own sexual hangups onto strangers. That's why Pizzagate says more about the believer than about the people actually in the story. It's purely a product of their own fucked up imagination. The less you know about Pizzagate, the scarier it is. So yeah, do your own research, but that means reading Wikipedia slowly, and actual articles, and reading the emails yourself. Watching 3-hour documentaries is not research. It's actually the opposite of research, because these ones are all so full of lies and misleading editing and Photoshop. The more actual research you do, the dumber it all becomes. So why do so many people cling so strongly to this story? Are they all just stupid? Well, I don't know. But like I said, Pizzagate is something that you first believe with your feelings, and later you confabulate a story for yourself that explains those feelings. I think there's a variety of emotional needs that Pizzagate fulfills in believers. It simplifies life into this easy dualist world of good and evil. It gives believers an imagined righteous purpose for their lives. But also, there's sort of this well-established truism in life that the people who most vociferously hate and denounce gay people are almost certainly gay themselves. Let's just say it's common knowledge in the sex industry that the biggest homophobes often turn out to be repressed homosexuals themselves. Usually, the hate we put towards others actually comes from within us. Because we hate ourselves, we externalize our hatred into people who share our traits. And listen, I'm not going to start a new Pizzagate and accuse any of these people of being pedos themselves, but whenever I hear stuff like this from Pizzagaters, I add that to the list of things that make me go,
No one could do that. Because, if I saw someone hurting a kid, I would kill them. I would literally kill them. I would never allow someone to hurt a child in front of me.
Like, Jesus, chill, bro. We get it. You're not a pedo. Thanks for the virtue signal. But please don't ever do that. Don't kill someone if you see them hurt a child. That's not normally the punishment we decided as a society is fair. And, just better call the police rather than do vigilante justice. I don't know, guys. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. It's kind of like the Trump admin pretending and posturing so hard about how they're going to get the Epstein clients. And then we fucking realize that his ass was in there and he's trying to cover it up. If you're going to accuse strangers of being pedophiles and rapists with zero evidence, people will rightfully conclude that you are probably just projecting your own self-loathing through this lens of childish online dualism. If you're going to accuse random dudes of being pedos based only on their realtors using the word pizza in an email, then I feel comfortable accusing all of you of being pedophiles based on the fact that you're addicted to a pedophile website, you irrationally hallucinate pedophiles that only you can see, and you've dedicated your life to over-extreme punishments that feel like overcompensation. When I look at those dots, I don't see many other ways to connect them. To me, believing in Pizzagate is much greater evidence of actually being a pedophile than any of the evidence against Hillary, Olifantis, or the Podestas. Could these irrational pedophile hunters all be repressed pedos themselves? Hey, it's not a smoking gun, but clearly we don't give a fuck about those. I'll let you guys decide the standard for calling people pedos, but if this is your bar, then y'all are for sure under it. The Pizzagate illusion only works because of our natural intuition to connect dots in the spookiest possible way. And these dots, mostly real with a couple totally fabricated, huge red dots that are carrying most of the weight. Once you remove the fake dots and add some more additional real contextual dots surrounding the current ones, we begin to see the true picture of what's actually going on here. And yet, people continue to believe. So who knows why? Maybe they just like to feel like they're part of an important investigative team breaking the biggest story of all time. Making a grandiose cartoon cabal of villainous demons is generally responsible for all of the bad things that happen, reduces a lot of the painful complexity of life, and gives you a very clear orientation. It gives your life this transcendent purpose to be a part of this cyberpunk biblical meme crusade. It gives you a feeling of superiority to know that you have this secret knowledge, and maybe it's an exculpatory narrative to ease the self-loathing and sexual guilt. Or maybe it's just sunk cost fallacy and stubborn refusal to admit they're wrong. Or maybe it's true retardation and an inability to weigh reason versus their gut feeling of creepiness. Pizzagators think that giving themselves over to the illusion makes them more spiritually enlightened or whatever. But let me tell you what being spiritual means in 2025. A spiritual person hears a creak in the night and has a panic attack because they rationalize and indulge in their animal fear. Me, I'm not spiritual, so I know that that's just a house creaking. I still feel that initial pang of, holy shit, what if that was a saber-toothed tiger? But then I receive that thought and I look at it objectively before allowing it to become the official stance of the Congress of my mind. Being spiritual is just to think that your anxiety is always accurate, which it almost never is. If you treat every person you meet as a Mossad agent, then sure, you'll never be tricked by one. But you'll be wrong about every interaction you have 99.999% of the time. Everyone has instincts, intuition, gut feelings. Animals have those too. But what separates us from animals is that we have our higher selves that can rise above these mere animal intuitions. I can't ask you to totally repress those, but don't be a slave to them either. You are not your thoughts or your feelings. You are a rider on an elephant. When you see a photo of a child taped to a table with scary music playing, your elephant rears. It gets scared. But it's up to us riders to demonstrate that even though it truly felt scary to you, there was no actual threat there. Pizzagate is a magic trick. It's an illusion that looks real. And like all optical illusions, you don't have a choice whether or not to perceive the effect. But also like a magic trick, Pizzagate can only be viewed from certain angles. If you approach it from any other direction than head on the way it's supposed to be presented in the documentaries, it all falls apart. It's violating the rules of the game when you ask something like, which specific emails contain a pedo code and how did you figure that out? That question fries their brains. And all they can do is go, whoa, hang on. I need to do the magic trick in a specific way. Well, you need to start from the beginning. I need you to sit in this position. There needs to be scary, intense, epic orchestral music playing in the background. Otherwise, it's not going to work. That's why no one on Reddit could answer my question. Pizzagate cannot be shared directly. It's like telling someone the plot of the movie. It's not the same. You need to be in the theater, popcorn in hand, THX bass booming, in order for it to feel compelling. so no one would ever come to the conclusion of Pizzagate on their own without being told in advance what to look for. Do you guys remember Scary Mary? It was this old school viral video where they took clips from Mary Poppins, the most silly, wholesome, and whimsical movie of all time, and they added scary music and re-edited it to make it seem like a horror movie. Pizzagate is just Scary Mary. And Scary Mary is scary. When you suspend your disbelief or squint your eyes and just let your raw emotions sweep over you, Pizzagate does feel creepy until you realize that you're watching a movie. And then the illusion shatters.
I don't know, man. When you find a good spot to summarize, I think we should do that and get to the rants, and then we can pick up on this again next week.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, how much more there is other than just continuing to go through pictures, to be quite honest with you, because I mean, there's,
Okay, so hopefully we can now never talk about Pizzagate again. Pizzagate was always just a distraction. Meanwhile, there is a real conspiracy of real child sex trafficking currently being covered up by the most powerful man on earth. Epstein is the real conspiracy theory. Epstein is a bipartisan issue. Clinton and Trump are both on the flight logs. But it's awfully convenient that the net result of Pizzagate is that the Democrats take all of the blame for child sex trafficking, plus this deranged satanic edition that makes it 1,000 times worse. And then the Republicans, who actually are just as guilty, if not more guilty of sex crimes, are supposed to be the heroes somehow. That's what QAnon is, by the way. The whole QAnon movement emerged after Pizzagate to create a story where Trump was secretly the hero of Pizzagate, and he was going to come in and arrest all the pedos and hashtag save the children. But I think we all know how that turned out.
But I mean, like, I was really black-pilled, and then Donald Trump came into office, and almost immediately it was like, I think that this might be exactly what I was hoping it would be. But
it's gone on too long, and I was sensing and hoping that the rest would happen around Christmas time at the end of last year, and they didn't. So I was very down and depressed about that. But they need to happen this year. And if they don't happen before 2020, President Trump's going to lose support. He promised that he would take Hillary Clinton down. He said that he would assign a special prosecutor to investigate her crimes. We haven't forgotten. We want to see justice for real criminals. We know these people are torturing children. They're raping kids. They're ripping their body parts apart. They're selling their organs on the black market. I mean, they are doing the most horrific crimes against humanity on children, and it's unacceptable. And President Trump needs to make sure that his DOJ goes after the real criminals. And if he doesn't, which I know he will, I trust him, and he's never let us down, but they need to do it before 2020, because I believe if he doesn't, then he's going to lose support.
And this never made sense to me. There was so much more actual smoking gun evidence of Trump being a sex criminal and literally zero evidence of Hillary Clinton being one. Guys, she's a post-menopausal doddering Walmart grandma. How high do you think her libido is? So the Podestas, Olifantis, and Hillary all walk away from this with totally spotless records as far as I'm concerned. Meanwhile, the hero of QAnon, the savior of Pizzagate, is somehow supposed to be this guy? Who are we betting is the pedo? That guy or this lady? The QAnon story is even dumber than Pizzagate, but together they managed to palliate Trump's egregious and incomparable sex crimes by inventing an even more outlandish yarn that actually makes him look like a saint by comparison. Sure, if the Podestas are grinding children into paste to make pesto or whatever, then Trump peeping on teenagers isn't that bad. Hey, any boat in a storm, but the storm is a lie. And a very, very politically convenient one, which brings us back to the very beginning of our story. Oh, and something I forgot to mention. Remember when that tape of Trump talking about how he loves grabbing women by the pussy came out? That was a pretty bad look. But luckily for him, the Russians started releasing their hacked emails literally 30 minutes after that came out. 30 minutes after the Access Hollywood tape. 30 minutes! Pizzagators, do we think that was just a coincidence? Or was there a coordinated strategy to distract from Trump's real sexual deviancy with a fake story of even worse sexual deviancy? Russia was trying to get Trump elected. and Pizzagate was a tool in their arsenal. Why did Putin want Trump to win? Well, it's quite simple. Putin wants to seize Ukraine. Democrats want to stop that, and Republicans are okay with letting him do it. Putin also knows that Trump was easily manipulated, a fellow authoritarian, and he knew Trump would destabilize American democracy far more than the competent politician like Hillary would. The more people that think Taken Two and Hostile are real and being operated by the Podestas in Ukraine, the better for the Kremlin. So Pizzagate believers walk away with a few things: an undiagnosed anxiety disorder, unwavering solidarity with Trump, and support for Putin's war in Russia. So now, good sirs, I invite you to put your tinfoil hats back on for just a minute and marinate on that. To sum it up, Pizzagate was a convenient fiction used by people like Trump and Putin in order to achieve their political goals. And despite being the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, Pizzagate is still believed and talked about daily and is still the animating force behind much of the MAGA movement. Dumbasses are still talking about it on Tim Pool. Trump is still tweeting about Pizzagate adjacent shit. And for many MAGA conservatives, it's the single biggest problem we face as a nation. Illegal immigration, LGBTQ issues, the war on Christmas, these are all only really bad things insofar as they're bad with regard to Pizzagate. After all, the illegals are trafficking in children for Pizzagate. The LGBTQ people are really just brainwashing children for Pizzagate. And the war on Christmas is just their mission to create a larger satanic society to enable more Pizzagate. You may think Pizzagate is a silly ancient meme that has been debunked and forgotten, but you would be wrong. Oh, at least about that second part. It was never forgotten, but it always was silly. And now it has been debunked once and for all. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon if you'd like to see more videos like this. It really helps me out. And now it's finally time for my exclusive Comet Ping Pong review. It was good.